It is 6 o'clock, and this is the Trophy Club Town Council Workshop. The date is August the 24th. If you can believe it, we are moving into the fall, hopefully soon. And I want to tell you that the chief of fire said to me the other day, he says, "Mayor, are you staying out of the heat?" He said it's a high heat warning, so I'm also going to share that with you as well. So we are glad that you're here. This is a workshop, and we have a quorum, so we're good to go. And I will kind of start it by saying we will be addressing the strategic objective of housing standards. Now, tonight's workshop will focus on something near and dear to our hearts, and that's our neighbors' grass too high, or the fence is leaning, or the garbage can is at the wrong place. And we get these emails from residents, do something. Well, we will tonight discuss our ordinances around those issues and give and provide some direction to the management. And so I want you to know that as you listen and participate, please remember that this discussion is functioning within something very important and dear to our hearts, and that is private property. So we have limited direction we can give regarding your private property. But we are very focused on keeping our standards high, and I think that it ultimately comes down to the bottom line that each homeowner is accountable for helping to maintain the standards that support your community and that support your neighborhood. And so together, I think we can work together to continually to make Trophy Club a great place to call home. So that gives us a starting point for discussion. And Matt's going to lead this.
I am.
It's your party.
That's a wonderful segue.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.
You're welcome.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the mayor just got through saying, so really the question is whether each of these issues rises to the level where municipal regulation is appropriate. Council has identified upholding the housing standards as a strategic plan priority. Some are already regulated, some fall into a gray area, and then some are outside the current ordinance. So what we're looking for, there's a dividing line between a legitimate municipal concern and something that's primarily just a private property appearance issue. As we go through these tonight, what we're really kind of asking, the question is, do we want to maintain this particular ordinance, clarify it, or enhance it? What we've done is each of these different three we did kind of a three-part test on each one of these. So how you've got a community impact, and then clear enforceable standard, and then the appropriate town response. Whatever standard we ultimately adopt has to be something that staff can explain, measure, and enforce consistently from one property to another. And that's where it becomes difficult at the staff level, if those gray areas. If you go on our ordinances and you look at the different nuisances, there's a few that we left out that we just don't have any issues with. Graffiti, weapons, restricted smoking materials. So we didn't bring those subjects up. These are the ones that reoccurring on a monthly basis. Okay. We'll go to this next section. So with that, at any time, just stop. If you've got any questions, we want to discuss anything, we're going to get into the first topic here. Just a second. Okay, commercial vehicles. A citizen concern that we hear a lot of. There's large commercial work vehicles parked long-term in residential areas, may affect appearance, visibility, and traffic. The current code primarily regulates commercial vehicles by registered gross weight and visibility. The potential gap would be vehicles below the existing threshold that clearly function as a commercial vehicle because of racks. Let's say they've got a rack on the roof, ladders hanging out the back. Vehicle appearance standard can be subjective unless definitions are very precise.
Okay, may I ask a question here? Because this commercial vehicles, it reminds me of a specific location in this town. I don't know if you want addresses, but they actually run some kind of a business that requires trucks and vehicles and so forth out of their house. And these vehicles are parked amongst the cul-de-sac. Now, what I don't understand is why the residents have not brought this to the attention, and maybe it has, and maybe you've given special permission, and that's what I would like to know. Do you know which one I'm talking about?
Not the specific address, because it sounds like one of about 4 or 5.
Okay, then.
Because we've got, some plumbing companies, we've got landscape companies, we've got plumbers that have take-home trucks.
Right.
Because they work, on call 24/7, and so they're parked in their driveway so.
Yeah, well, this one is very different. It is significantly packed with cars.
Most of the time, in the
It's
older
not
section of
coming.
time, it's limited by operating a business out of your house is limited by deed restrictions, which the town cannot enforce legally. Do we have ordinances about that? About operating a business out of a residence?
Oh, well, we do have ordinances for that, yes.
But that's not part of tonight.
No, sir.
But that would relate to what the mayor is saying. Operating a business out of the house.
Yeah, and it's.
Not just
Yes.
parking, not just because I drive a company car or a company truck
Right.
and I park it at the house when I'm home.
Yes.
That raises the bar, yes. It's a business operating out of their house with their trucks coming in and parking and all kinds of.
So the question is, in relationship to what you're talking about to this, is the ordinance about operating a business out of the house clear and definable to where you can enforce it similar to what we're talking about now?
Well, the ordinance meaning what, Dennis?
Well,
I
what
mean,
ordinance
I
we're talking about that prevents somebody from operating a business out of their house, which is where you're parking all your company trucks in front of the house during the day
I looked it up. You can look it up.
or night?
Yeah, I'm trying to look up real quick to see if I can find the section of our code that deals with home business.
I know it has to do with, I don't,
14.02.
Well, I don't like having a commercial truck in the driveway, but at the same time, I think it's proper that we have people who live, work, those trucks will not fit in the garage. We don't have side tracks, we're not big lots so that we could hide them. And if that's my normal vehicle, then I have the right to put it in my driveway. But to operate it out of my house to where I have 3 or 4 people who are employees have their cars there, that I could object to.
I agree.
I think, is it 1402 that talks about the traffic, if it causes an unduly amount there on the street?
Yeah, I've got to double check. Usually these rules are written around their impact to the surrounding neighborhood, right? So it's about parked vehicles, things like that. It's not necessarily a prohibition against occupying or having a business in the home. It's about having the secondary effects of it. And so I'm just kind of looking to see how ours is written on that one.
Yeah.
There has to be a very clear secondary effect since it's a public street. So, generally speaking, I think a lot of this is probably a little too subjective for us to change the ordinance on. I think you get smaller vehicles, you're gonna get people's work trucks. I wanna make sure people are free to make a living as much as they possibly can. We are probably already on a trajectory to price out a lot of people, not just here, but anywhere worth living at this point. I mean, I don't know how my kids are even gonna pay rent when they're in their 20s. And I bought my first house here when I was 24, so, I'm dreading having to take care of them. We need to let people live and let live, I think, on a lot of, if you don't like the way something looks, it doesn't really move my needle. They have a logo on their truck?
That's what we, that's.
That's tough.
That's
I
the
mean-
majority of our phone calls is, you've got a logo on the truck, it's, you know,
Electric vehicles are gonna change the 10,000-pound limit as well.
That's a really good point, yeah. I think we have to be really clear to make sure I don't want somebody to have a fleet, like what Jeanette was saying. If they have a fleet parking on the street 4 or 5 days out of the week, we probably already have something on the books that would be close to that, or, you know. But I mean, I think outside of something like that, I think we need to be real careful. I'm a DIY guy. What if I have a ladder in the back of my truck? You don't like my ladder? Is my ladder not pretty enough for you? Yeah, I don't want neighbors reporting neighbors. It's just never been a thing of mine.
And I'm not specifically talking about that. I'm
Yeah.
talking about this particular situation. So.
So
but-
Mayor, to answer Dennis's question concerning the zoning code, this is in chapter 14. It says that no traffic shall be generated from such home occupation in greater volumes than would normally be expected in a residential neighborhood, and any need for parking generated by the conduct of such home occupation shall be met off the street and other than in a required front yard.
So the
Whoa.
key
Sounds
is
pretty
that the first part of your comment was, to me, was very nebulous and unenforceable. But the second part, read that part again about not being in the street, and not being,
Any need for parking generated by the conduct of such home occupation shall be met off the street and other than in a required front yard.
okay, so would that answer your question?
Yeah, I think it would.
Without any changing, we have an ordinance on the books that addresses it.
And I think
Maybe it does, but,
you could even just look at number of, I mean, because, you know, property tax info has number of bedrooms in a home, so you'd be able to say you got 4 bedrooms and, you know, four commercial vehicles. That, you know, it doesn't add up unless it's your bunkhouse for your company, you know, like, so maybe, I don't know, I mean, it's hard to say. These are all very heavily case by case. I mean, Matt, I'm sure you guys, part of the whole thing is like, how do you, if you can't reasonably enforce and get results, then you're maybe just creating churn for staff, so, got to be very directed with it.
Yeah, remember that with some of our business-like uses within residential neighborhoods, we've talked about parking, and we've kind of allowed those ones to be, you know, everything's got to be off-street except for that area immediately in front of the house. That's how we've kind of dealt with that with some other areas. too.
Matt, how many complaints do you
it's
get
a
a
specific
year
place.
on this? Approximately?
What did you ask?
Just how many complaints are there?
I would say, just roughly, we probably have 10 to 12 of these a month.
Okay.
So it's quite a few.
Significant, yeah.
Some of them are reoccurring. It's the same people calling, and then we'll get new ones here and there.
Next.
Next.
Next,
That's what Dennis said, next.
okay,
It's,
junk vehicles. The current ordinance uses a very specific legal definition of a junked vehicle. A vehicle can look neglected, sit for a long period, or appear inoperable without necessarily meeting that legal definition. So again, this is where we're getting the calls. This creates the common resident concern. Everyone knows it has not moved, but it may not yet qualify as a junked vehicle. Any expansion must be reviewed against state law and enforceability.
So are these, for the most part, vehicles parked in a driveway for extended periods of time?
Extended period of time.
Driveway or on the grass?
That's not allowed. That's an easy one.
Yeah, that one's been there for a long time.
yeah, right.
That's why it's an easy one. It's been
Yeah.
there a long time.
It's been there
right?
forever.
So
But this isn't,
it's been there for a long time, and there have been some state law changes. For example, you no longer have an inspection sticker. And so there are some updates that could be done to the ordinance.
Yeah.
just to clarify, are these pictures of our town?
No, ma'am.
I didn't think, it didn't look like it. I wanted to be certain.
Well, that's my front yard, Jeanette. What are you talking about?
It-
But if it is
I looked at
parked
it,
on the grass.
It had too many trees in it.
It's out.
Didn't we
That-
thought
it-
that was Hogan's
Correct.
Glen?
That's automatic.
So it's your-
If they
Approved-
gravel
approved
next to the,
surface.
if they gravel or stone next to their driveway, is that
Approved surface.
Approved, yes.
an approved surface?
I don't think we've only had but one here where they put pavers, but it was only like maybe a foot or two.
I'm
just
talking
to
about
give 'em-
gravel.
Yeah,
I think
I'm not gonna call that
I
a-
remember a house somewhere in
yeah,
that
I'm not gonna
Trophy
call
Club
that an
got
approved,
gravel.
that's not an approved surface.
Okay.
So off the top of y'all's head, do you know how many we've had trigger the 30-day on private? I think 72 on public's fine. That's not a very long time. By the time if someone had a problem, by the time they called us and asked us to deal with it, adds another day anyway. But as far as 30 days, like how often have we seen
Didn't we
those?
just have one not too long ago?
Yeah, I only have one at the moment,
Mm-hmm.
and like Dean was talking about, now that you don't have the inspection sticker, it does make it a little more difficult for us to see that, especially if it's parked the other way around.
You don't have any chalk to mark the tire?
Now we're
That's
walking up
old-fashioned.
on their property.
It's called cameras today.
Wait, I'm confused. We still have inspection stickers. What do you mean?
Yeah, we still have inspection service.
It's registration.
The
Registration?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess they could still not have one. Just as easier to let it skate longer than it used to be maybe. Or if it doesn't run, but you can still keep registering it.
Yeah, so the statutory language used to include both the registration and the inspection sticker, so you could walk up and see that it's out of inspection, and that would be one of the elements that you would prove. So it might still be registered,
Yeah.
but not, it's outside of the inspection time period, but now you can't tell
You
if it's
can't track
outside
it,
of.
yeah.
Yeah.
Didn't we just address this not too long ago? With the vehicle sitting out front? Somewhere in the Highlands? No?
The Highlands?
Yeah, I thought we did.
But we still have the overnight rule, so
Yeah.
this has
Correct.
got to be on
Yeah.
private
Right.
property.
Yeah.
On private
Yeah.
property.
Now, what about the fact that, I'm picking up this photo because it's not Trophy Club, but if it hangs over the sidewalk? Even if it's on my driveway, but it blocks the sidewalk in some form or fashion?
Yeah, we don't
do anything about that. Can we do something about that?
Yeah.
Or should we do something about that?
Should be able to walk.
I've seen people in Abbey Moore have that happen because the lot lines, the front building line's so much closer. So I guess it's a matter of whether or not someone reports it. So for this one specifically, I think based on what Dean was just saying, it sounds like it might be a candidate for some staff rework just to clean up, even if like the overall structure of it doesn't change a whole lot. One thing I would like to add though is, we should stipulate that it must be uncovered. Because one man's trash is another man's treasure, and if you've got a project car, for example, you could get into a subjective situation where, yeah, it looks really bad, but I'm gonna have it pay, whatever. It's easy and cheap to throw a cover on it if that's the issue, right? And then it's not as much of a concern. And there are people that park in their driveways permanently and cover their cars anyway, and so the only distinction would be how often does it move. If a car that runs but you never move it has a cover on it and it's okay, but a car that doesn't run, you never move it, what's the actual difference of the community?
We've had it down off of Indian Creek
yeah.
in Forest Hill. The guy had 4 classics,
Yeah,
60 models, and he kept them in his driveway, properly off the street, but
Right.
covered.
Yeah.
They had to wrap.
yeah, and there's one on Indian Creek, he's got one of those Monte Carlo, the all-black Monte Carlo, what are they called, back from the early 80s? He's got one of those, keeps it covered.
It's about 16 on Chatswood.
So
Yeah, and none of those would meet the definition there of, right? of
Right,
a
but you
vehicle.
might be able to,
Yeah.
like, if I had something, hey, if it's parked in your driveway and it hasn't run in 3 months, put a cover on it. If it's
I drive mine just for the record.
So we're going to send some direction for them to
Cleaned
clean
up.
this one up? Is that what you're saying?
sounds like
Yeah,
it's
I
good
think
for,
I'm hearing it's
You know
clean
what
up
you're-
on
you
this.
if
know-
nothing else, if there's
Okay.
legal updates because of state law.
You know what you're hearing then?
Yeah, I think so.
And I want to go back then on commercial vehicles, we're going to retain what we have, nothing.
I believe that that
Okay.
is the intent.
Okay, thanks. What, Dean?
So if I can-
if we got
if I-
rid of garbage carts and went to plastic
Wait.
bags, we'd get rid of this, we wouldn't need it.
So one thing I might add, and if Chief wants to join in, maybe, I don't know. But we did look at a commercial vehicle that kept moving, would move around every night and would just park in the city's or the town's parking lot. And try to avoid violations by parking in, for example, the, Heritage Park? And the problem is your ordinance didn't have a provision that would allow you to tow the vehicle. And so if you're going to look at a revision there, it would be authorize the.
That would be proper to upgrade. And then we're still going to have the ability to approve, we have to approve it, right?
That's right.
So we're asking you to upgrade it and put stuff like that that would comply with the law.
We could make that specific to public property in general.
Yes.
Right, because it'd be
Yes.
here or a park, if a park
Okay,
is
good.
closed, whatever. Yeah.
That specific vehicle have a trailer as well? Someone
Yes.
with a trailer, okay.
Yes.
I know what you're talking about.
So
Yeah,
that way you don't
Is
have
that
commercial
yours?
vehicles parking in your
No.
parks.
side business.
Chatswood.
I have a little truck.
Blame it on Chatswood.
And we did cite Bedford on that. They've got, for their commercial vehicles, you've got 24 hours period, and then it's just automatically towed. So for their commercial vehicles that are at places that are not permitted. So,
Chief, did you want to say anything?
No, thank you for bringing that up.
Okay.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Okay. On to garbage carts.
yes.
Yay.
That's a good one. All right, current ordinance regulates when carts may be placed at the curb and when they may be removed. The gray area is where the cart may be stored during the rest of the week. A clearer rule could use an objective location standard, for example, behind the front building line, screened from public view, et cetera. So this is a very common one. It's usually one neighbor that just doesn't like the other one, but, and they tell us that.
Right.
But this is very, very common, phone call, or, most of these are not emails. And so that's, to answer a lot of these, it's very difficult for us to give you a factual thing, because these are just people on the way to work, and they're just calling,
But
and
just-
saying,
Mostly this is already covered by the HOAs in those areas.
Well. yeah.
correct.
Yeah, but down where we're at, we don't have an HOA,
and-
and the deed restrictions don't work. And as far as I know, no one's ever enforced even a part about keeping it screened. So it's been an enforcement. I've never complained. I've got 3 neighbors that it's in their driveway, been in their driveway for years. So the question is this just not forced, or is this not clear in wording that it has to be screened from
Correct.
the street?
Because you're just going off of deed restrictions as opposed to in our ordinance.
Yeah, and I'd like to see it put it screened.
Yeah, and if you take a look at the wording there, right, the outdoors, it's goods, materials, merchandise, or equipment. Not real clear whether or not a garbage can is gonna meet those definitions, especially where the second section
Yeah.
calls it out specifically about placement at the curb.
Yeah, and my complaint about my neighbors is not the fact that I could see them. They do keep it clean. They keep them neat and they keep them covered, and there's not a trash issue. It's just the fact that they keep their trash cans and recycled cans on their driveway
At all times.
at all times.
I like Roanoke's ordinance, just because it's nice middle ground for, like, think about it. We have some HOAs that have a fence, that you have to have a see-through fence, and it can only be live screening, so then, well, you can't put it behind your side gate if you have that, and it kind of gets complicated. Leaves room for a little bit of flexibility, but easier to enforce, maybe.
But if this means nothing to keep it behind the front building line. On their driveway, it's, especially where you don't have direct drive, where you have a side, J drive or something. It's behind the building line, period.
Right.
Yeah.
Question
And it's
is,
still
if
in
you're
the
gonna,
fr- and it's still in
if
the
you're
front.
going to, I'll use the word hide it, screen it, cover it, okay, it should be worded such.
I mean, I keep mine in my garage, but if we ever have to go to the 90-gallon blue and green, I don't know if I have room.
But at least
just,
you got
and there's
till-
lots of
till
people like
May-
me.
Till next May
Yeah.
to say, you're not.
Y'all
gonna
should see
need
my
that.
garage.
Just sell your
Organized.
bikes and you sell that other stuff and get
Sell
rid
the
of it. Yeah.
fleet of electric scooters that I'm amassing.
Is Dennis accurate? That doesn't mean, that Roanoke's doesn't mean that it would be on the side of the house?
Correct. So
Kind of could be up
so-
against the garage corner. on the
code
side or
enforcement,
something like that.
and I know this because I used to work there, they're not a fan of that one, because if you have a house that's built, let's say the garage is 5 feet behind the build line, Well, that mean, they can put it right
At
out
the
in the very
front- it's
front.
at the
That's
front of the
fir-
curb.
So, that's a very difficult enforceable, because now you're looking at every individual plat,
Oh, you mean
most
platted
subdivisions
build-
aren't that way.
You mean the platted build line, not the actual where it got built?
Yeah,
Well, we could write it the right way if we
Correct.
wanted
You-
to do
you
it.
could write this- You could
Yes.
write this as the furthest back
yes,
of the actual building line, right? That
Correct.
way, if you have dimensions to the front of your house, it applies, basically, the rule would be it couldn't go on the front.
Similar to how you can't put a fence beyond that same spot.
Correct.
That's what I had in my
Yeah.
mind when I thought about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could write this correctly so that you would get the desired effect.
So what is the desired effect? Hiding it from public view?
Well, from what I just heard, it was to not have it on the front of the house.
Well, see, I mean, I'm saying from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm
Dennis would
saying
like it
from
completely, not
public
visible from the
view.
street.
So then you would go with option 2 on that one, right? The Fort Worth model, where theirs is essentially you can't be able to see it from the front of the residence.
No, you can't say the front of the residence, because in my part of town, most of the houses don't face this, where their driveways don't face the street.
Like I could put
My
it on the side of
driveway-
your house.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not the
See,
front.
my driveway doesn't face the front of the house. The people across the street don't. I got 5 houses I can count.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean when you're standing in front of the residence, you can't see it?
again, well, that's where Dean and I've talked, is you have to have common sense on some of these. If it's a corner lot, if it's written to be the front of the house, you should be standing, generally speaking, in front of the house, facing the front door.
Right.
And so,
But what's the difference with just saying from public view, from street view, period?
public view
And
is
that
different
covers
for
the
a corner
side,
lot.
the corner lots, it covers
Correct.
the front?
Yeah, and it takes in the individual configuration of these homes. And also, I have a question. How significant is this issue? You said it was something that's somewhat common, but
So-
again,
Again, because of the way it's written, when it says outdoor storage and display, goods, materials, merchandise, and equipment, so we get the calls for the bicycles, we get the calls for those things that have been propped up. It's not just these carts.
That-
So that's where we can help, it can help staff with at least the distinction on the
On
parts.
garbage carts, yeah.
Just add that?
I'll say if you got a problem with a bicycle in front of someone's house, move to an HOA. Like, come on, or read a book, or go for a walk, I don't know, learn to cook something, like, come on.
Next,
Who's calling these in?
well, I think whatever we do, whatever you choose to do here, you've got to do something where it's enforceable, because
Correct.
guess what? You only have so many hours in the day, and you're not going around the town looking at all the garbage cans. So whatever you do, it, again, has to be enforceable, and you communicate it, and if it's done, and if it's not, it's kind of not.
Correct.
So
frankly.
so to that point, speaking of enforcement, whose responsibility is that?
It falls under my department, so.
Okay,
it's-
so I don't know about you guys, but I get way more calls about garbage out early, before 7, the day before, than I do these.
I agree.
I get those all the time. And we have some people that put it out a day early, 2 days early. I mean,
Week early.
and you live in an HOA.
Yeah, get your HOA.
Yeah, enforcement is just, I mean,
It-
it's tough.
it is
It's
tough.
very tough.
It is.
We should definitely have something separate for garbage carts, because it's everybody twice a week, right? I mean, that makes a lot of sense.
And not everybody uses garbage carts.
Right, but I guess they could.
But again, it goes back to the very beginning, and even, and both Matt and I said, it comes down to, what am I as a homeowner willing to do to keep my neighborhood in an environment that we can all be semi-proud of? That's basically, unless you want Paul going up and down the streets every day of the week, giving citations. And then the next week, he comes back and it's there again. So what are you going to do with the garbage carts? Anybody? I do not support fencing it. Again, that's enforcement. If I tell everybody in this town that they have to have that garbage bin contained, not gonna happen.
I would love it if we could, but I think practically it's going to be
It's not.
tough. Yeah.
So let's encourage them to move them back.
Is it as simple as adding garbage carts to the code? It's not?
Yeah, if you do that to this section here, because the outdoor storage display is just prohibited, right?
Right.
It's essentially how it is. So if it were visible at all from the street, then it would be a violation of the outdoor storage, on it,
Gotcha.
which is not what I'm hearing where you want to go as a group on that.
Not long ago, I did take a ride around the neighborhood, and specifically kind of after a day of, I didn't see that many out. I mean, of course, every day is a different day, don't get me wrong, but at the same time, and I went into an environment where there are smaller lots, and the homes don't have three-car garages and such as that, to kind of get a sense of, are people keeping their garbage bins in?
You will absolutely see this on some streets.
Yes,
A lot more than others.
yes.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm trying to say, honestly. Do you see it on your street then, man?
Not much. I do see some early trash, like Steve said, but it's people that I know have like travel, for example, and they'll just have it out a day early because they're out of town or something like that. So I don't say anything. But yeah, maybe this one would do for a little staff recommendation on a
Yeah.
couple of options. It sounds like, 'cause it sounds like people want to do something.
Is the preference to the council, is it to more is it going along the line of not being able to see it from the front of the house?
Yes.
Or is it, you want it, but you're okay with it on the sides and
Yes.
back and things like that?
Yeah.
Or you just don't want to see it at all? I think if we knew that part, that would be helpful for us in writing something that would be.
I just don't think you can ask somebody to put that where it's not visible based on the house, the size of the lots, the homes, and so, you just can't ask that. And now, one day, CWD may say you gotta have a bin,
Right, and it'll be even more of a,
and it's gonna be a real big deal then.
Right.
Today, it's
No,
not.
it won't, then so I'll start using the town dumpster.
So anyway, I don't know. What do y'all want to?
That's my
The
answer.
HOAs
I agree with you,
are
Jen.
as you're viewing it from the front. That's how the HOAs are.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
The HOAs are as you look at the house from the front.
Yeah,
So,
to the side.
yeah, because we're actually working on some alternatives where there's these devices, like you're talking about fencing and stuff, that people can put up and just put it right behind that. So
Yeah.
it just can't be seen straight on.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Because-
yours is more like the Fort Worth
Yeah,
version
right.
of it, yeah.
Right.
And how is the one on Roanoke so good? Garbage carts must be stored behind the front building line. That's where the problem is.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay. So,
good luck.
just to be,
Good
it
luck.
seems like you're closer to the Roanoke model than to the Fort Worth model. Is that
Focusing on viewable from the front.
Yeah.
Viewable from the front.
We're looking for a middle ground.
correct? But if it were on the side of the house, you'd still be okay with that
Yes.
idea?
Yeah,
Even though I
Dennis-
can still see it from
De-
the front
yeah,
possibly,
Dennis's house is okay.
but it's just kind of tucked
Yeah.
away behind, okay.
Everybody
Yeah,
put your
mine's in the
cart
garage,
in Dennis's
'cause I
side
have a
yard.
cart.
Exactly.
Roll it
Okay.
over there.
All right. That's helpful, thank you.
Okay, that was good. Next. Dead trees, uh-oh.
All right, the current code addresses dead trees or limbs that present a reasonably identifiable safety hazard. The existing approach is primarily hazard-based. The potential gap here would be a dead tree that's unsightly but does not present an identifiable hazard. So think of like a real small yopon holly that's in the front flower beds. If it falls over, it's not going to hurt anything. It's just unsightly. Expanding beyond safety would shift the town toward broader property maintenance / appearance standard.
I actually have a friend whose next door neighbor had a massive dead tree right on the property line, just waiting for the right storm, and it would have fallen on their Circle Drive potentially. So, yeah, I looked at it for years. I think it's still there. Let's, yeah.
Maybe this is,
I've always kind of liked the way the grapevine, take a look at the grapevine wording. I've always liked that one, in this particular instance, a little better. It gets more specific about dead trees that pose a hazard to any property to be trimmed or removed, unlike ours, which is a little bit nebulous. The grade implies that residential and other properties, whether occupied or unoccupied.
Or even, I mean, honestly, I don't know what this is, something you'd have to look at other cities, but I would even want to say dead or disease that's over a certain size. But I don't know if other cities do that. I mean, I'm not a tree person per se.
Dennis is.
Yeah, I've had 30 years and I haven't had to buy firewood.
Yeah, I like the idea of adding damage to property as well, right? Either injury or property.
So so here's what Paul and, staff, here's what we run into is, it's a dead tree, it's large. And the very first thing that comes into is the financial aspect.
Yeah.
Is the tree trimming on a very, very large tree can be really expensive. And what he hears occasionally is, there is absolutely no way that I could afford any way possible to do this. So there's that next step of, at that point.
Well, so the next question is this a significant issue in our town? In particular areas, or?
We probably have 4 right now that are in backyards, so it's not real obvious in the front. I think three of those actually have some green on it, but it looks predominantly dead, so it's one of those, it's just a question.
Well, so are their neighbors the ones complaining about the
yes.
dead trees? Okay.
Yes.
So I guess when we talk about the financial aspect, obviously, we do have ordinances where at some point we contract out, we enforce it, and we file a lien.
Correct.
But that's a very onerous legal process, if I'm not mistaken, all right, guys? That's like a minimum 6-month, 9-month, maybe longer, just to even get it going.
No.
But it's not easy, no.
No, yeah,
If there was.
that's tough.
Gary, not that your kids are going to do it, but there's organizations that could be assistant. We still need the ordinance. But if somebody is in financial bind, yes. And my first comment is, well, you're either going to pay for it or your insurance is going to pay for it.
Yeah.
But it would not be bad to find arborilogical, somebody or other, or a Boy Scouts or some type of nonprofit organization that could assist somebody in that case. Or
Yeah.
one of the churches.
We did have that for a while, for abating like tall grass. And one of the churches had a group, and they would come and do that. That's kind of fizzled away
But
since.
the town's not in any liability of recommending that, right?
No, if they want to
That-
volunteer,
So
they
that's
volunteer.
what I would recommend.
We just,
If
yeah.
not, get one of the citizens' groups to research it, to do, if it implies that. Because we have people who are either retired or older or whatever that, or maybe in between.
I love getting out in the yard. If I ever get to retire, this is my plan,
You got my yard.
to mow people's
Okay.
yards. I'm not joking.
So the
Y'all might have to wait another 40 years before I can afford it, but.
So
Only-
if it's in the
oh.
front, Dean, what's the definition of removed?
So I was going to get to that.
Yeah.
I'm glad you asked that. So my only other recommendation would be to include stumps. So, and require the property to be blade clean. So otherwise you have a tree that's cut off at 2 feet.
Absolutely. We do that,
Oh,
we do
listen.
that on
Oh,
purpose,
boy.
so we
My
can put
neighbor did that.
flower pots on.
That's
I'm
right.
serious.
No,
So you
my-
put flower pots
No,
and
my
stuff on.
neighbor,
That's
neighbor
decor.
did that.
I'm, I am all for blade
Trunk
clean.
and put a flower pot out there.
That's,
With fake
taking the stump
flowers.
down is usually more expensive than
Right.
taking the tree
It
down.
That's
is.
right.
It is.
Yeah, grinding a stump is expensive.
Oh, I've got one I've got to do.
No, I'm against the blading.
Just
And we've
put
been
on-
talking about ground cover.
put on
and-
fire.
No, we're not finished yet.
Oh,
Or what do we
okay.
do with this dead tree?
As long as we get the noise before the end of the.
Well, we still need the
We have
definition of
We have
removed.
20
then.
minutes, so what, did you get all you need for the dead tree?
I think
I
so.
think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
It's like throwing darts.
in the
It is.
5 years that I've been here, we've been
Also
pretty
subjective.
successful on
Very.
handling this with what's given.
Just add something for the definition of removed.
Okay, here comes our favorite one. Ground cover and grass height.
Yes.
This is it. Have you seen, I've actually seen people measuring the height.
But this is only in non-HOA areas, right?
It depends.
No, no.
We can enforce anywhere, right?
No,
our
I'm
ordinance.
talking about, he
No,
was
ours are pretty
complaining
tight.
that my lawnmower, which is set on high as it'll go, is too high for his neighborhood.
He's growing wheat in his front yard, okay, so.
So the current code addresses dead trees or limbs that present a reasonably, oh, sorry. The current code addresses excessive weeds, grass erosion, sediment, and related impacts. It does not establish a minimum percentage of turf grass or vegetative coverage for established residential lots. Bare soil may be unattractive without necessarily constituting a nuisance.
What about dead grass right now? I mean, drive
We-
around the town, it looks
Mayor,
pretty
we call
bad.
it dormant.
Yes, it's just early dormancy. You know,
I pray that it is.
I actually had a neighbor years and years ago ask me about this because they had a next door neighbor decide to clear cut and resod, but they had I guess, kind of lost momentum on the project, you know, and then it took them forever, and it was erosion. But because it was erosion between two private properties, I don't know that there was anything we were able to do about that, as you can see how it's written there. I personally think when you get into vegetative cover and percentages and all that, that's Gary's old job, that's HOA stuff. I don't want to get too deep into it. But if there's something we can do for erosion onto other people's property, I know that gets really shady because then we talk about, I mean, there's drainage easements and, you know, all kinds of stuff happen there, right? I mean, and sometimes someone else has an erosion problem on their property because they don't take care of it, but you're draining onto their property, so you're making their property worse, even though you're draining properly. I mean, it gets rough. So,
What you're talking about is probably the most common, because if erosion is going out over the curb into the street,
Yes.
that's easy for us. That's MS4, that is stormwater, that's piece of cake. When it's going from one lot to the other, and as you know, the topography here, it happens a lot. And we've got a handful of, at the end of the driveway, you've got like a French drain to pick up the water just because of slopes and things. Well, then that French drain is getting clogged up by dirt because the neighbor's sprinkler or mulch or their dead grass, and now it's dirt. So these are the kind of things that come up. And yes, the majority of these, our answer is it's a civil matter, doesn't go over well, but that's our typical answer on these.
and I don't know how we could sustainably change that. I mean, if we were to tiptoe into those waters, it'd be a whole nother thing for y'all. I do have one question that I'd like to see there. It's implied under rights of way, but I'd like to see us add explicitly sidewalks.
Okay.
Because I see that a lot, and I don't ever, you know, I'm not a big reporter, but I feel like, you know, the sidewalks are there for public, you know, for public benefit, you know?
And
Oh, you
then-
mean keeping the sidewalks?
In terms of the erosion,
Yeah,
I mean, they
okay.
count as a right-of-way,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
people don't necessarily, when they read that,
Okay.
they may not
Yeah, yeah,
think
yeah.
that, you know?
And then Dean, did you want to touch on just the last couple years' state law with the xeriscapes and things like that's?
Yeah, so you do have some state law preemptions. They call that the Death Star Bill. And part of that bill kind of opens the door to this argument that you can't regulate agricultural production. And so, for example, in this scenario here that we see, if I wanted to plant a row of corn along my whole front yard, you may not be able to.
There was somebody right down there that
you
used to do
serious?
that.
Well, they grow
Yeah,
sunflowers.
how about the wildflowers?
The
Well,
sunflower-
and that's,
the
and that's
sunflowers.
another argument. I've heard it argued before that the state flower is
Yeah.
a weed, and that should be, that your ordinances would regulate that, and,
Dennis, you
you
can
know.
become a corn farmer.
So sunflowers are technically weeds.
Yeah, my neighbor took about a third of their front yard and made it a desert, and then didn't maintain it, so, but nothing you could do about it.
I watched that evolve over several years.
But, yeah.
Dean, it doesn't have to be zoned ag.
That's a good question.
No?
property.
Get you a
No,
goat.
so,
and get your
so
ag
you
exemption.
see the one ordinance that talks about
But they could get a
uncultivated?
goat and get a cake.
Yeah.
And so some of that comes down to what does it mean to cultivate? So if I'm cultivating, for example, weeds,
So if they want to keep it all brown and everything else like that, the only thing I could think of is to lower it down to either 6, 8, or 10 inches.
so 10 inches, you're probably okay at the lowest of 10 inches.
All right,
And
then I
there's some
recommend we
cases
go down to
that
10
address
inches.
that.
I'd
but-
support
Does
that.
your mower go to 10 inches?
Yeah.
But we'll look at that again and bring it back to you.
The reason I like the lowering it to the minimum is that it just, if it does become a long-term problem, we've seen them, we know when they happen. It just gives, it's an earlier, starts the clock a little earlier if we know it's, because it gets to that point, it's probably not gonna take care of itself, you know, sadly.
Okay, so that's another question. So it's usually questions about the height of the yards, not so much bare space and things like that.
It's both. The-
Yeah, well, I know,
The bare space, Paul does an excellent job, I will say, on the height of grass. He will typically put a door hanger around 8 inches, just to give them, so that's around Wednesday, Thursday, you know, whatever, because then by Monday, there's a chance that it's getting close to that 12. And again, 99% of them get mowed, you know, over the weekend, but that's his normal MO is, and he's got what we call like the frequent offenders, so the ones that are doing this a lot. So that's his normal on that, is going ahead and just put a little door hanger on there before it gets to that height.
Okay. All right, so what are,
middle of
do you have
August,
directions over there, staff? You have
10
directions?
inches,
You know what you're doing?
Ain't nothing growing right now.
Hi, guys.
Speaking of noise,
noise.
All right, noise. This is the big one. This is Ryland's. You're gonna-
This is mine,
Ryland gets
yeah.
to speak to the noise.
Yeah. I've-
Go.
So as y'all know, the existing code relies largely on reasonable person nuisance standard and identifies certain prohibited noise sources. A residential noise is inherently subjective. What one person considers normal, another may consider excessive. A measurable decibel standard adds objectivity, but also creates operational requirements.
so you have a problem, Riley?
No,
Your
I
neighbors
just have a lot of
complain to you?
anecdotes. No, I just have a lot of
Well,
anecdotes.
some come from
His
your
neighbors-
house.
Some
his
come
neighbors
from-
don't- His neighbors move out every 2 years.
They do, but I think it's not because of me. I just said,
Oh, I thought it was your noise.
no, I used it as an example that we have the same gatherings over and over 2 to 3 times a year, and one of the 6 of the 13 years didn't like it, but everyone else did, you know, and it kind of opens up that question, right, of,
Well, recently, I've been
You know,
having a resident call me, and I've been referring them to Brandon, where their teenagers, before the parents get home, have a loud, and he can hear it inside his house. So the one thing I look at here, and what I've got my note on here is, this is nice, enforceable to a point, but we need a defined level, meaning we need to have, pick a decibel.
A measurement.
Now, I've asked a question, and our code enforcement and our police cars, vehicles have,
Could have.
could have.
have. Noise.
Oh, I thought you said.
No, they don't
Noise
have.
detector.
There you go, spending more money.
All right,
Dennis.
yeah, I'm spending more money.
They're not that expensive.
No, they're.
Okay,
they're
but they should be able to, because my last comment to him was, well, hey, next time it happens, call 911. So where's the chief when I want to talk to him? As to, that would be the next thing to do.
yeah, and I'd like to, because we talked about this about 10 or so years ago, because there was a repeat offender, actually in Patrick's neighborhood, I think, used to have a big party every year.
We're talking about noise, Chief.
And we talked about decibels, and then we talked ourselves out of it. Do you remember why we talked ourselves out of it?
Yeah, because we didn't want to commit to having a device or getting some type of instrument to try to determine
Yeah.
and put that pressure on the officer to come up with a number or.
Well, I'd like
Well,
to
that's what
put
we're
that
talking
pressure on
about.
the officer.
Yes, yes, with
I-
a device, with a
Okay.
device.
In other words, you've got an ordinance that really is unenforceable to a point. And we just make it clear. And now, is there another way to do it besides having a decibel count?
How much is the device?
Your iPhone
Not
can
that
do it.
expensive, but it's that
That's what I'm
moment in
thinking,
time.
too.
My
They're
Apple Watch
under
goes off in
$50.
church
Yeah,
every
they're very
Sunday.
expensive.
Oh, okay, so, yeah.
Clark says your iPhone can do that.
Right, it does on your phone, but
There you
it's
go.
that moment the officer gets there, not when they're complaining.
No, I understand. You have that on everything, right?
And that's what, Dennis, we're here 8 to 5, and Friday nights and Saturday nights is typically when we get these emails that we get on Monday morning,
Yeah,
so.
and I'm not talking about the once-a-year backyard
Right,
party or
when it's
whatever,
over and
but this
over,
is
yeah.
every time the kids get home from school.
Correct.
Okay, until the parents get home.
We've left a friendly reminder.
Thank you, but that's still not enough.
Yeah. How
Okay?
much is it?
So I'd like to ask for, like, for an example, South Lake has an established level of decibels.
60 dBA, yeah.
And Grapevine has a measurable distance.
Like a decibel at a distance or at a distance. Correct. It'd be cool to explore the idea of something that's measurable, but I want to make sure it's very reasonable because do have extensive experience in this area. My band full of middle-aged dads played a crawfish boil on Monavale in April. I mean, we had speakers and everything, and it
Yeah,
was
they-
great.
they-
Everybody had a blast, but that's
were
because
called.
the neighbors were cool. Actually, no, they weren't called, but there was a fire
There was-
call.
Yeah, fire call.
Yeah, and all the cars were parked together, so, yeah.
Well,
So,
I
Yeah, well, and
also,
also remember that we do have, and it's currently in our ordinance, there is an opportunity that residents have to come and to get have a
permit.
permit, a noise permit for their event as well. People don't, right? But for the big bashes and things like that, I think one of the things is also just notifying them, you can still have a great big party at your house, whatever it is. If you're going to exceed that limit, you need to come in and get a permit, a noise permit for it.
So to be clear, it should be, that should be mentioned here in this ordinance so that they go together.
Yeah, and it is in the noise ordinance, it's just a little bit further
it's
down.
maybe a little bit,
It's
yeah.
the Ryland Row Memorial Noise
Well, I
Permit.
mean, that's a special case, right? Because that's amplified sound. I mean, that's legit, right? I mean, it could have just as easily been a paid band rather than a bunch of hacks. But, what I really want to make sure is if it's just me at the pool by myself with my music on, that it's not 60 decibels, and I think it probably is, and you can't even hear it outside the yard.
Yeah, who was it? Someone asked me what 60 decibels actually was, and I think when I just Googled it to look, it was like a conversation
Right.
between two people. So we want to have it
Yeah.
that's a little higher than
They
that
must not be.
for it. So
Yeah.
we'll take a look.
For anybody that's been to a Van Halen concert, it's lower than that.
who's that?
And I think Ryland's volunteering to go to different versions
Yeah.
of concerts so that we can
Yeah.
kind of figure out.
Sure,
what right
and
noise
parties,
is.
yeah,
exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have a friend that does for example, a St. Patrick's Day party every year, and
Man,
there's
I'm living in the wrong neighborhood.
one neighbor that just isn't a fan, and it's not a wild, on the scale of 1 to 10, it's a 4.5, but they just don't like it, and they call in most years because they just don't like that it's happening. Some people just aren't really prepared to live in a neighborhood with their neighbors on top of them, even though we all are, and we have to make sure that those people aren't the ones dragging Patrick's guys out,
So Ryland, when you guys are playing, what level are you guys at, would you say?
They'd be
Oh.
cheaper than the big.
Enough to
band.
get a permit, probably, yeah. I mean, it's a real band,
You-
yeah.
You could use them.
Yeah, I'll use
I would like to say, however, that in Trophy Club, we tend to be closer together in our homes. We're not on 1 acre, 2 acre, 4 acre lots. So therefore, it goes back to, am I being responsible and accountable to my neighborhood? And sometimes there's persistent noise all the time, that, what do you do about that? I don't know.
That's why I think it was mentioned, a distance
Yeah.
to the noise would
They
be.
gotta be, they
appropriate.
gotta put
And we can get a
together.
rangefinder
Yeah.
type thing to figure that
Yeah.
out.
So I think that is a consideration. because-
Anything with
and
time of
take the
day.
hearing aids out is not an alternate for the police that day.
Who has hearing aids? You?
Huh?
Who has hearing aids?
I probably need 'em.
Hearing aids.
So,
Okay.
so
We-
we're
all
at,
right.
establish a DBA, is that where we're at?
Yeah, have a
Yeah.
decibel level and a distance requirement.
And then how much would it cost to put it on a police car versus people's individual cell phones?
Oh, I don't know.
I'm sure
Subjective.
the apps are free and we can get
Yeah.
a couple of rangefinders.
As long as it's-
make sure
yeah.
we're within distance.
I mean, I think it's fair, but just 55 is not enough.
Yeah, we'll figure, it's not enough to worry about the cost of it. We'll
No.
figure that part out.
So you're good with this? You're good with noise, everybody? Because we have about 4 minutes.
Getting
left.
close. I would just say it'd be cool to see comps from a bunch of other cities, just see
Yeah.
what the levers are on all of them, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, any other thing? How are you doing, Matt?
Good.
What's next?
That's it.
The
Next
end.
steps.
Next steps.
Y'all covered them.
Okay. Return to council with findings.
That's it.
Yeah, we'll put together some recommendations, based on the comments tonight, and we'll return with, some ordinance changes.
Now I'm gonna measure my DBA, because I always have stuff blaring in my garage,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Especially football season coming up.
Those
Games are
cars of
blaring.
yours, it isn't,
Now,
yeah.
The
wait a
cars are
minute,
quiet.
go back one step, please, because you have a step in there says, I'm not sure exactly how you're going to make that happen. Determine the level of your next steps. Right there. Determine the appropriate level of resident and community input. What do you mean by that?
I think the question is, do you want us to put together any survey work or focus groups? So we know residents who call frequently on it. We would, we could get together a group and talk with them about that if you would like us to do that, or we could just bring forward recommendations for you.
What do y'all think?
I'd prefer just to hear from staff.
Yeah.
You prefer just, okay, we'll want to hear from
But
staff.
notice to those people that you're talking about that it's coming before council. In other words,
Sure.
hey,
That wouldn't hurt.
Yeah.
be aware, we want your input. Be aware
Yes.
that this
Okay.
is a open, you can talk.
Yeah, as they call, it might be an opportunity for us to kind of, hey,
That's a-
we got an upcoming meeting.
A little extra advertisement is coming up.
Okay.
Okay, good. Any other comments, questions? All's good? Everybody has their direction? Anybody else? Okay, adjourn. We'll
job, Matt.
start back in 4 minutes.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
Go get a drink.
I need to go.
I need the, Sean.
Okay.
Sean. Sean.
Good dude.
Sean.
For them. I'll need it right now.
He's a good guy.
You want to do the pledges?
Sure.
Okay. It's 7:01, and we welcome you to the Trophy Club Town Council meeting. It's so fun to see so many, I love it when a lot of people come in, and some of us, we know each other, and some we don't, but we're glad that you're here because it's an opportunity for you to be a part of what's going on in this town. And the more we hear your voice, the more we learn, and to help us create a place that you can be proud to call home. And that's called, Trophy Club is a great place to call home. Thank you so much, and we do have a quorum, and it is, I forgot to say, August 24th, Monday, and it's 7:02. Would you please stand for the invocation by Pastor Bill Eason?
Let us join together in prayer. Gracious and loving God, as we gather tonight for this meeting of the Trophy Club Town Council, we pause before the business before us to give thanks. We are grateful for this community we call home, for our neighborhoods and families, our schools and businesses, our houses of worship, and for all those who give of themselves to make Trophy Club a place where people can live, work, learn, serve, and belong. As a new school year begins, we pray especially for our students, teachers, administrators, staff, and families. God, give them patience in the busy days ahead, curiosity in learning, compassion for one another, and the wisdom to remember that the true measure of a community is found not simply in what we accomplish, but in how well we care for one another along the way. We continue to give thanks for our first responders, our police officers, firefighters, EMTs, paramedics, dispatchers, and all those who stand ready to answer when someone calls for help. Watch over them in their service. Grant them courage when circumstances are difficult, wisdom when decisions must be made quickly, and bring them safely home to those who love them. And for those entrusted with leadership in our town, God grant wisdom for the decisions made tonight. Give us humility to listen before we speak, patience when we disagree, and the ability to seek what is good not simply for ourselves, but for our neighbors and for the generations who will call this community home after us. May our words tonight be thoughtful, our disagreements respectful, our decisions wise, and our service worthy of the trust placed in us. And when the work before us is difficult, remind us that community is built one conversation, one decision, one act of kindness, and one neighbor at a time. God bless this council, bless all who serve over our community, and bless the people of Trophy Club. In your holy name we pray, amen.
Amen.
I pledge
allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, Miss Tammy, do we have public comments?
There's none signed up for this section, but for item 7.
Okay, thank you. We do not really have a community spotlight, but one was created for me. So I'm going to call Carter Fox and Abby Maggard to the front, please. You know, as the mayor, I'm always recruiting for people to work with us and to grow up and become a part of our local government. And would you guys come here and can you take a picture of, and if the council would come in and, so we have Carter Fox, and he lives in the Highlands, so he's here for, representing the Highlands. And we have Abby, you live in the Highlands as well. Yeah, y'all are in the Highlands as well.
Where do I live?
So, and Abby is a frequent visitor to the council, and she has started the 9th grade at Byron Nelson. Yeah, you're Byron. What school are you at, Carter? What grade? Fourth grade. Okay, well, we are glad to have you here tonight. Thank you. Got it. Thank you very much. Okay, are there any comments from council members working for you? Anyone? No? None? Nothing? We've been all quiet. We've been really busy, I'll tell you that. So we are working for you, and if you ever feel like you need to reach out to us, it's easy. We're available, and we want to respond and keep you focused on what makes us a wonderful community. We are a community, and one that I think we're very blessed and proud and thankful to be in. So, and I want to say thank you to our leadership. Today, you'll notice on the agenda, we have Tammy. Tammy, stand up. Come on, stand up. Today, she's our town secretary, and she keeps us in order. She's our lawyer when Dean is not here.
She's a lawyer when Dean's here.
Yeah. And today's her special day because we do, if you'll notice on the executive session, we do have a review of her performance this year, and I can tell you it's excellent. So we appreciate you very much. Thank you. Any other comments? Anybody? Okay. Would you like to update us, please?
Sure, and actually, we're going to start off with a special recognition of one of our town employees. So with us, we have Lindsay Rawlinson. Lindsay is the town secretary in the city of Roanoke, but also president of the North Texas Municipal Clerks Association. She's here to issue a very special award to one of our employees. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to her for that.
Okay, thank you. Hi, Lindsay. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. Some of you may know me, as Brandon said. I am Lindsay Rawlinson. My husband is also the deputy fire chief here, so I have a few connections to this community. I appreciate very much allowing me to borrow a little bit of his time. But tonight, as he said, I am here as president of the North Texas Municipal Clerks Association, and it is my sincere honor that I recognize Maggie McCormick Krukowski as our 2026 NTMCA Deputy Clerk of the Year.
Oh, my goodness.
She did not know about this ahead of time, so I'm very excited. So I want to tell you a little bit about Maggie. Maggie has served the town of Trophy Club for the past 3 years, and during that time, she has demonstrated an exceptional commitment to the municipal clerk profession. She is passionate about records, information management, and information governance, and she is always willing to share her knowledge and expertise with fellow clerks and records professionals. She brings an impressive level of education and professional development to her work. She earned a Master of Library and Information Science degree, achieved her Texas Registered Municipal Clerk certification in January of this year, and is on track to earn her Certified Municipal Clerk designation in October. Perhaps most importantly, Maggie has made a significant impact right here in Trophy Club. She played an important role in implementing the town's updated records management program, and her work contributed to the town secretary's office receiving the 2026 TMCA Award, Achievement of Excellence Award. I think one of the things that makes city secretary work so special is that by its very nature, so much of what we do happens behind the scenes. People don't know what we do until we don't do it. We spend our days making sure the details are handled, the records are in order, the requirements are met, and the organization keeps moving forward. Maggie is one of those people who is always there, quietly making sure things get done and making that invisible work look effortless. Maggie truly represents the professionalism, education, integrity, ethics, and dedication that this award is intended to recognize. So on behalf of the North Texas Municipal Clerks Association, congratulations, Maggie, on this very well-deserved honor. We are proud to recognize you and celebrate your accomplishments.
Thank you. We're so Maggie, you want to say anything? You must say something. Don't sit down.
You're putting me on the spot.
Yes, I am.
I just want to say thank you for, for the opportunity to get my, my certification, and without the support of the town, it wouldn't have been possible. So I do appreciate everything the town has done for me, and I love working here. And I love records, so.
Listen, go to her office if you've ever had the opportunity, and you'll see boxes. And there's records, there are records in there.
Yes.
Thank you. It brings tears to my eyes to see people grow and develop right amongst us. Thank you, Maggie. Thank you so much.
I'd just like to say that she's an integral part of our office, and I wouldn't be able to do my job efficiently without her, and it's amazing to see her grow and it was great to see that she got this award.
I can't believe that. This is so great, Maggie. Thank you so much. What a great night. Okay, other where, next?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, so we're so proud of Maggie and all that she does here. It's a great award for that, and one that she deserves wholeheartedly. All right, moving on, Patriot Day ceremony. Join the town for our annual Patriot Day ceremony on Friday, September 11th at 8:45 a.m. at the Trophy Club Fire Station. This free community gathering honors the nearly 3,000 lives lost on September 11th, 2001, while recognizing the first responders and volunteers who continue to serve our community today. Residents and visitors are invited to join us for that for that event as we remember, reflect, and show our appreciation to those who serve. All right, the doggy dive-in. Sit, stay, and splash.
Oh, and if you have a dog, do not miss this.
Exactly. This is our
It's
second
so
time having
fun.
it, right? Our second annual doggy dive-in. Bring your furry friend to the Trophy Club Community Pool for our second annual doggy dive-in on Saturday, September 12th from 9 a.m. until 11 a.m., where pups of all shapes and sizes can swim, play, and cool off before the season ends. And if you were there last year, it was a lot of fun. Lots of dogs running around and playing in the water. Don't forget the Best Dressed Pup Contest. Registration is $10 per dog in advance or $15 on the day of the event. So join us for that again on September 12th from 9 to 11 a.m. Boards and commission meetings, we have a few of those coming up. One of them, August 27th, Arts Council meeting on August 27th at 6 p.m. And we invite the public to come in and join us for that meeting. And as a reminder, town offices will be closed in the observance of Labor Day on Monday, September 7th. So, however, police, fire, and emergency medical services will remain in full operation as normal. If there's any questions, I can take those, but thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Dina, how did you choose a civic tip with this huge agenda that we have in front of us?
Sometimes I just choose on the fly, but today Tammy actually gave me a good one.
Okay, thank you.
So this is in relation to item number 10. That's an ordinance authorizing defeasance of a portion of the town's outstanding debt. And if you're looking in Texas Government Code Chapter 1207, it gives the process for doing that. Basically, defeasance generally involves setting aside sufficient funds to pay the debt. Once those funds are set aside, the legal requirements met, that portion of the debt is effectively considered provided for. It no longer remains an outstanding obligation of the town. So this gives you a chance to pay off your debt earlier.
Thank you. And it also gave us an opportunity to do what, Brandon, with that? Didn't it help us with keep our?
Oh, that for the tax rate, yeah. The reason why we're doing it, we can get to later during the
yeah.
agenda item as well, but the reason why we're doing it is to maintain a tax rate at 10 cents where it is that we desire to maintain.
Yeah. Good. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Dean.
Consent agenda. This part of the agenda consists of non-controversial or housekeeping items required by law. Items may be removed from consent by any council member by making such request prior to motion and vote.
Do I have a motion?
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve the consent agenda, items 3, 4, 5, and 6.
Second.
Gary seconds that. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passes.
Individual items. Case PD AMD 26003, PD 27 Landscape Standards. Conduct a public hearing and consider an ordinance to amend Plan Development District Number 27, PD 27, the Highlands of Trophy Club, at the request of the town of Trophy Club, to revise the minimum required number of trees to 1 tree per lot, aligning the Plan Development's landscape standards with the town's base zoning ordinance requirements.
Okay, this is Matt, and before you do this, since we do have visitors in here, I'd like to review this steps for having a public meeting. So the first thing we will do is I will open a public meeting, and then the staff will report, and then we will open it up to those in the audience who might like to speak, at which time, when that's done, we will close it, and then the council will begin to discuss it, at which time we'll determine if we need a motion, and then that's where we are. So I'm going to open this meeting at 7:16. Thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. So the PD 27 is also known as the Highlands, approximately, well, just right under 700 acres. On April 9th, Mrs. Fox and I presented to the P&Z Commission a proposal to revise the minimum required number of trees to 1 tree per lot, which would align with the town's base zoning ordinance requirements. Mrs. Fox's presentation also included positive feedback and survey results that she had sent out through all of the Highlands HOA. The proposed ordinance amendment was placed on the 8/13, so just a couple weeks ago, P and Z agenda for formal consideration and recommendation. We've gone through this a handful of times with P and Z, so for those who didn't watch that meeting or are new to this evening, bear with me, I'm going to go through a few of these things. So there's a handful of different colors that you see on this. Everything that you see is PD 27. There's 5 different lot types. So starting with lot type 1, that's a 90-foot wide lot, all the way down to lot type 5, which is a 50-foot. There's townhomes and 0 lot lines. This is just a breakdown of, so you can see that there's 9 different neighborhoods. I'm going to go back to this slide. So you've got the 9 different neighborhoods, each neighborhood. So let's say, like this one here is neighborhood 4. So on this, there's 184 total lots. 80 of them are type 1, 104 are lot type 2. This will make sense why I'm going through this in just a second. So out of the 1,489 homes, this amendment will affect around 1,300 of the homes. So those remaining homes that aren't going to be affected are going to be the lot type 5s, because those lots are 50-foot wide, and when you read the ordinance, it's basically a tree every 30 feet. So because they are not at the 60-foot mark, they only have 1 tree required on that lot. Any questions there? We'll get to it, I guess, after we close the public hearing. So the minimum of 1 tree per 30 feet of front yard width is required. Trees are required, or not required, but they're permitted in the parkway, and trees counting towards the requirement must meet a minimum of the 3-inch caliper selected from the approved tree list contained within the ordinance. That's what's the way that the current ordinance is written for them. Mrs. Fox is going to come up. She can do the presentation now, or she can give her a synopsis, or after we close the public hearing. That's probably my suggestions, because then we can have feedback back and forth. Notice of public hearing was published as required by the Town of Trophy Club zoning ordinance and state law. Notices were mailed to all the property owners within 200 feet of the subject property. So in case you wanted to know, that was 1,605 letters mailed out. At the time of the P&Z agenda packet was published, staff had received 1 email in support, 1 email in opposition, and several phone calls, both supporting and opposition. I will say that a lot of people called. The most popular question for us was, we don't want to cut all of our trees down. And so after talking them through that, this does not say you have to cut any trees down. It's just the minimum requirement would be 1 tree. So if you did cut 1 or 1 died, you would not have to replace, you only had to have 1 tree. The town attorney, Dean, has reviewed the ordinance as to form and legality. Based on the surveys and citizen feedback, staff does support the proposed amendment to PD 27, does recommend approval. The Chairman Biggs is here to go over the P&Z meeting that we had on the 13th.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Hello, how are you?
This item came up, I guess, 60 or 90 days ago, and the presentation from the Homeowner Association was very complete and comprehensive. They sent out a lot of letters to everyone, homeowners and residents in the Highlands, and they had like a 60+% response for a positive response to this particular one little change in this ordinance. So that's an amazing return of any kind of survey, in my opinion. But we had several people come to the last P&Z we considered this, and most of them were all positive on this particular situation. It solves a problem that was created back when the development was originally done. And, they said, 1 tree for every 30 feet. Well, they didn't consider driveways or sidewalks there was 30 feet or every 30 feet of grass or dirt. So it created a problem, especially when the trees got bigger. It started shading everything, and the grass started dying, erosion started in the streets, or the neighbors' trees grew over into your yard and stuff. So I think this solves it's a real simple solution to a problem that no one really wanted to create or realized they were creating at the time. And apparently, the majority of the citizens and homeowners in this area are in favor of it. So we did not take a lot of issue with the way the ordinance was finally presented. We'll have questions later if you have any.
It was a 6-0 unanimous
Okay.
recommendation.
Do we have speakers?
Yes. Warren Payne?
Oh, you're going to pass? Okay, he passes.
He submitted his public speaker card, 4 in favor.
Okay.
Jenny Fox?
Good evening, Mayor and Councils. Thanks for having me back to speak tonight. I'm here on behalf of the residents of the Highlands at Trophy Club Homeowners Association to ask for your approval of a proposal to amend the Planned Development District, or PD 27, the Highlands at Trophy Club, to revise the minimum tree requirement to 1 tree per lot, aligning it with the town's zoning ordinance requirements. The P&Z Commission has already reviewed this proposal and recommended its approval, and we're asking the council to affirm that recommendation tonight. This past year, it was actually about a year ago exactly this month, the Highlands at Trophy Club HOA surveyed our neighborhood to gauge resident interest in amending the current tree policy to match the rest of the town. In total, we heard from 432 residents, and to put that in perspective, we have 987 homes in the Highlands, so that's almost half of our entire HOA did respond, and a clear majority support this change. 66% favored reducing the requirement from 2 trees per lot to 1 tree per lot when asked directly. Residents cited real concerns, practical concerns, dead grass, root damage to driveways and foundation, and overcrowded lots that can't properly support 2 mature trees, especially when a lot of the builders planted live oaks, which when they are mature have a 100-foot canopy. That's beyond the lot size of any of these lots on the screen that we saw. This amendment simply brings PD 27 in line with the rest of the town, reflects what our residents have told us they want, and reduces unnecessary cost and maintenance burdens for homeowners. As a resident and as a board member of the Highlands at Trophy Club HOA, I respectfully request the council to approve this amendment consistent with the Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation. Thank you for your time and consideration. I'm happy to answer any questions later, however the rules
We'll
go.
ask you later.
Thank you.
Next, Leland Johnson?
Leland Johnson, 2528 Broadway Drive. Everybody's already covered all the points. We've been talking about this for a while in the HOA. Thank you for your service to our town, and I'm in favor of this for the obvious reasons already stated. Thank you.
Thank you, Leland.
And Renee Ongario?
Hello, Mayor and Council. Thanks for having me. I'm Renee Ongaro. I'm the president of the
What's your
Highlands.
address, please? We need an address.
2702 Trophy Club Drive. I'm president of the Highlands at Trophy Club HOA. Jenny has recapped on behalf of the HOA, but I just wanted to reiterate our strong support of this amendment. We've had lots of feedback from our residents, as you know, and lots of challenges within, with dead grass, with dying trees, with, driveway challenges and damages. So on behalf of our residents and the HOA, I would just respectfully ask for your approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee.
That's all we have.
Okay, I will, 7:26, close the public meeting, and now it is open to the council. Gary, since you're at the Highlands, you
Yeah.
go first.
Well, first, everybody, I am on the board also with the Highlands Group. But the greatest thing about this is listening to the people of the Highlands. We've seen a lot of challenges through these years. As our community has grown, I want to thank the board, Renee and Jenny, Tom, who's not here, or Josh, for all their help on this. I mean, this has taken us a year. This is a great common sense approach to government, and I appreciate you guys listening. And Mr. Biggs, thank you for all your work on this with P&Z. Thank you. And Jenny, amazing presentation when you put it up here. So thank you so much. Thank you.
I do have one question. I don't know if, Jenny, if it was you or somebody said that the vote was 66% or something like that. Of the third of the people that didn't approve it, what was the general opposition? Just out of curiosity.
That's a good question.
Great question. And Matt had this as well. Clarity. So people thought that it was meaning we had to go down to one tree, despite numerous clarifications on the survey. It was literally people thinking it just meant that we're going to only have one tree, and they didn't want to cut down any other trees. So, which is not the case. You can have as many as you want.
Yeah, and don't hold me to it, but I think you did have a percentage of people who just didn't care, you know.
Yeah, there was actually quite a bit.
And so, you know.
Interesting.
The sound of chainsaws tomorrow.
Now, Jenny, your side of town does not have wood-burning fireplaces, but my side of town does.
He's collecting wood.
Yeah, we don't. Come on over. We'll host an event for you.
And he'll cut it down for you.
That would be great.
There you go. But he won't dig it out of the ground. That's what he said earlier.
Well, hurry up, the code's not there yet.
I just want to encourage y'all generally. First of all, thank y'all for doing this, because this is a thing, like Gary said, it's common sense. It makes a ton of sense. So I appreciate that the HOA was proactive and brought this to us. And the reason I'm so appreciative of it is because there are things in a plan development residential ordinance that were put in place at the time of the development for the purpose of trying to make sure that the developer was held to a certain standard. And there's nothing wrong with that, but, you know, like Mr. Biggs said, and Jenny, you did as well, there might have been unforeseen consequences. But even more importantly than the unforeseen consequences is just you can't account for things that change over time relative to the neighbors and the residents. And there's certain things here like approved list of trees or approved vegetation or whatever that was there as a developer standard, that if I was in charge of the world, I would say after it's developed, roll it off, leave it to the HOA. So if there's any other way we can help y'all and y'all's neighbors, and I would carry this to anybody living in a planned development residential zoning district, that we can help y'all create what y'all are trying to do at your board level and drop some of the vestiges of the past that really were for the developer, by all means, this is the way to get it done, and I'm 1,000% in favor. And with that, I'd make a motion to approve case PD-AMD-26X003.
Before we do, can I ask one more question?
Comments, maybe.
Well, we can talk when there's a motion on the floor.
Okay.
Okay.
Second,
He's
by
got
the
a
way.
motion. Who's second? You can second that? Okay, keep talking.
So here's my question. Does this have a bigger, potentially broader impact to Trophy Club in general? I mean, we're talking about one area, the Highlands. Last time I checked, there's a lot of trees in a lot of different areas. What impact does this have, if any?
I don't think it has any impact because the other HOAs just said that the builder will put it in. Doesn't say it has to stay in, but in the Highlands, it's worded to where they have to stay. Okay,
If I may, Mr. Flynn, that's what kind of started all of this for me personally years ago, was that this is just bringing us in line with everyone else. And that's the biggest issue here that we felt as a community. We're actually being singled out to have a different set of standards, which isn't fair and not clear. We understand the development side, but this simply brings us in line with everybody else. We are the only difference here, so.
Perfect, thank you.
There's one thing I want to add, though, is before we finish the vote, we actually will save people a lot of money because a lot of people have spent money ripping out yards, changing out grass, and this will, as those trees grow, we're going to save people thousands of dollars.
Right, yeah, and if you've not driven down Broadway or some of these streets recently, take a tour, and you will feel like you're in a forest. Actually, I love trees, and they're beautiful, but I also looked at the yards, and I thought, well, I'm glad that's not my yard to have to figure out what to plant in the shade, because that's hard. So, thank you. Anyway, I think it's a decision that the HOA ought to make. It's your home, it's your property, it's your neighborhood. And so I, again, applaud somebody for bringing this to and going the right way. Going through our P&Z, they listening to you and bringing it to us. That's the way to do it, and we appreciate it.
I think Jenny called me about 2 years ago.
2 years
been a
ago?
while. Yeah.
Well, government does move slowly. That's what I tell anyone who joins the boards or anything, it goes slow. But we will get there. Clark, Sean, y'all want to say anything before we close? Okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Item 8,
Now the whole room leaves.
Yeah, go have fun.
I dare you to stay.
case RP 26001, Triple Crown Estates replat. Conduct a public hearing and consider a request by Moda Homes LLC for a replat of lots 1 through 6, 7X, and 8X Block A, Triple Crown Estates, being a 2.992 acre tract of land situated in the Mary Medlin Survey, Abstract 832, Town of Trophy Club, Denton County, Texas, and approving an ordinance abandoning the public street right-of-way for Triple Crown Drive to establish a private street and utility easement serving the subdivision.
Okay, 7:32, open for public hearing.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council again. So Moda Homes LLC, they are requesting approval of a revised replat of Triple Crown Estates. The purpose of the replat is to convert the existing public right-of-way for Triple Crown Drive into a private street. So the Cliff Note version, the developer would like to add a privacy entry gate. The former public right-of-way will be replaced with a private street and public utility drainage and emergency access easement to provide continued access for emergency services, utilities, drainage, and maintenance. Notice public hearing published as required by Trophy Club zoning ordinance and state law. Notice is also mailed to property owners within 200 feet. At the time, staff has received no letters of support or opposition. Dean has reviewed the replat as to form and legality. And Mr. Biggs, you're up for the P&Z meeting.
This wasn't as much fun as the tree one. It's pretty boilerplate, easy stuff. This exists in several other areas in the town. But the one question that did come up was, when you come in the gate, our cars going to be stacked up out on the street like it's Chick-fil-A, blocking traffic in front of the dog park? And the answer was, there's room for 2 cars off the street as you go through the gate. There's only 6 homes in the subdivision, so we figured that was going to be reasonable. And they get to maintain it. So, and we don't have to. So that's about what we talked about very briefly at this particular situation. It was a 6-0 vote,
Yes,
too.
sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so any questions? No, you can't do questions right
No,
now.
you can't question. Not yet.
I always forget that.
Not-
I will say one comment.
we're
When you
trying to
said
keep-
now everyone leaves, we had more people at the P&Z this last time on trees than we ever had. And as soon as it was done, they all left. There was nobody left.
It kind of sucks the energy out.
I'm leaving right after this.
I dare you to leave.
We don't have anybody signed up. to
No speakers, so it's 7:34, we close that hearing. Any comments?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the agenda item for the Triple Crown Estates replat.
Is there a
I'll second.
And Steve seconds. Before we do that, I'd like to say, now this will become an HOA, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And it will be gated.
Yes.
So I just have a little story. I remember when I was on council 12, 15 years ago, the Churchill Downs came and they wanted to become public. And the town said no. So this is great. One more street, less street that we have to take care of, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And I think that's going to be a very nice little neighborhood. I think that's really a great addition to this town. If you've not, is everybody familiar with where that is? It's going to be a nice addition. Thank you. All right, those in favor, raise your hand. Those opposed? Motion passes.
Item 9, consider authorizing the town manager to negotiate and execute a human resources management contract with Flex HR in the approximate annual amount of $130,000 for an initial term of 6 months with 4 annual renewal terms.
All right, good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is in relation to the upcoming fiscal year 2027 budget. And as you know, we are considering a different model for the way that we deliver HR services to our employees here in the town of Trophy Club. We've had some departures recently in that department, so it has provided an opportunity to evaluate the effectiveness of possibly providing this as a third-party outsourced service for us rather than in-house staff. And so in that review process, we've selected Flex HR as the desired firm to work with us as our third-party HR consultant on this. And what they'll do is essentially provide all administrative and management HR functions for us here in the town, but they will do it remotely, right? They'll do it virtually. Now, there is an opportunity for them to be on site as well for that, and so they do have the ability to provide that. We interviewed many, many companies in this, and very few of them had the option of being able to provide an on-site staff support for the HR department. So we're very happy to have a company that we're working with that has that ability when we need them, because there are times of the year when we need to have an HR person on site. It might be when we are doing onboarding for our seasonal employees, particularly in the parks area, right? Those are high school kids who show up. They don't know what you're talking about when you say, fill out the I-9, you get it all corrected, bring all your identifications with you. That process requires a lot more hands-on experience for it, as well as a lot of our testing that we do for our police and fire departments when we are doing entry-level hiring in those departments, and also advancements as well for them. So we are really happy to potentially have a partner in Flex HR that can provide both the remote services that we need, but also be on site when we need them too. Let's talk a little bit about the services they provide. So they'll be providing things, so they have kind of a framework where it's $50 per employee per month. On that, we range between 130 employees per month to about 200 employees per month, depending on the time of year. Obviously, the summer is heaviest for us, that's around 200, and then around December, January, so we're around 130 for it. But they'll provide, on their base model, they're providing onboarding and offboarding, they'll answer employee questions, they'll do policies, leave administration, employee verifications, benefits, personnel files, workers' compensation, employee relations, disciplinary and termination processes, performance reviews, exit interviews, benefits reconciliations, employment-related compliance and claims. Those are all the types of services that they'll provide for us remotely for it. And then also through their on-site person, they'll provide strategic HR consulting. So when we need things like new policy development, right, they'll be able to assist with things like that. Think of it as kind of like a one-off project with them for it. So if we would need to do compensation analyses or investigations or things like that, we'll have a person on site to be able to help us with those at about $130 per hour for that person. All in all, this contract is anticipated to cost us about $130,000 per year, which saves us about $175,000 per year in the HR area for it. Now, as we get into it, there aren't a lot of municipalities that have gone to a third-party HR platform for their services, and so we are a bit of a guinea pig in this, and we are looking at it mostly as a pilot program, right? An opportunity for us to validate the effectiveness of this model here in the town of Trophy Club for our employees, and obviously the services we deliver to our residents for it. So the contract is structured in a way that provides for an initial 6-month term for us to make sure that it's a good fit for us. After the initial 6 months, then it renews for 1 year, 1 year increments, and we can obviously opt out in any one of those 1-year renewals for it. But it is an initial term of 6 months and then 4 1-year renewals with that. And if there are any questions, I'll be happy to, the implementation date for this, we are gearing up for the October 1, 2026, the start of that fiscal year, which is 2027 for us. But October 1 is when we are gearing to have this service up and running, and we will have them onboarding in September if this is approved by the council. So I'll be happy to answer any
Are there
questions.
questions? Anybody? No questions? Nothing?
Just a point of clarification, and you did say this, Brandon, but the total amount is $130,000. When you read it, it says for initial term of 6 months, so somebody could read that as $130,000 for 6, and that's not the case.
No, thank you for clarifying that. Yeah, no, it's an annual amount of $130,000. Yes.
Okay, and honestly, this is, you're presenting it to the council for budget issue. You selected the HR, the company, based on what you needed, what you wanted, and how they would work with you. And I trust the decision on that. So our question is, are we going to, financially support it? Okay, we have a motion?
Sure. I move to authorize the town manager to negotiate and execute a human resource management contract with Flex HR in the approximate annual amount of $130,000 with an initial term of 6 months with 4 annual renewal terms.
I'll second. And just real quick, I just want to applaud you guys for having a creative and innovative way to try something that hopefully is a money saver and delivers just as good, if not better, service. This is super cool. So appreciate staff's work on this.
And I think, too, it just gives us an example of continuing to look at how we can manage our cost effectively, efficiently, and taking care of our taxpayers at the same time, so.
Yeah, and just one other comment.
Yeah.
Obviously, there will be an employee who will be leaving us as a function of this. We thank her for her service and wish her the best.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes,
I got a quick
that's good.
question for
Thank you.
Dean.
Thank you.
So Dean, in the agreement, liabilities capped at 12 months of fees, right?
That's right.
What happens if an event happens and it goes over that amount? Is that us? So their liability's at 12 months, right?
So their liability and our liability is capped at 12 months.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, we second this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Motion's on
all
the
those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passes. Thank you.
Item 10, consider an ordinance authorizing the defeasance of a portion of the town's 2014 certificates of obligation for an additional amount not to exceed $80,000 to enable the town to lower future interest expenses and reduce its overall debt burden.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is for consideration of a resolution authorizing the defeasance or early payoff of up to $80,000 of the town's 2014 certificates of obligation. As discussed throughout the budget process, one of our goals is to maintain a flat INS tax rate while preserving capacity for future capital needs. Because the 2014 debt is currently callable, staff recommends using available funds to pay down a portion early. This is expected to save approximately $15,000 in future interest costs, reduce outstanding debt, and provide additional flexibility for future capital projects. This action supports the town's overall strategy of responsibly managing debt while maintaining the long-term INS tax rate goal of 10.5 cents. I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have.
Do we have a motion? It's, silence means the motion, right?
I'll move that we authorize or ordinance, or that we approve the ordinance authorizing the defeasance of a portion of the town's 2014 COs for an additional amount not to exceed $80,000 to enable the town to lower future interest expenses and reduce its overall debt burden.
I'll give you a second.
Dennis seconds that. All those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passes.
Item 11, consider resolution adopting the Town of Trophy Club fiscal year 2027 business plan.
Oh, this is.
Before we do this, you want to?
Yes, what?
All right, before we do this, we want to talk about this a little bit, because there's some things in there that we still haven't, that are budgetary items that we haven't come to consensus on.
Yeah.
Do we need to talk about
No.
that before?
I
or-
can talk about it when we get there. Absolutely. Yep.
When we get.
Yep, yeah, I'll stop on those, because it's really just one item,
Yeah.
so I'll stop
Right.
on that one item when you get there.
Okay.
For it. So, let's take a look at the fiscal year 2026 business plan for the year. So process-wise, how do we get here at adopting a business plan? So the town council a few years ago adopted a 5-year strategic plan, right? 5 to 20-year horizon of goals that we wanted to accomplish throughout our community. Within that plan, there are many, many goals, right? And we can't do everything at one time. And so the idea is to every year develop a business plan. So the highest level priority goals for that particular year, 1 to 2 years, that the town needs to accomplish for that. What that provides on the staff side is intense clarity around the objectives and the goals of the town council, the things that will make the biggest impact to our community, and to make sure that we have budget alignment with each of those items as well, as much as what Councilmember Simmons was just saying, right? The importance of having those items aligned in the budget. When all those things work together, right? So we're talking about consistency and clarity from the very top of the organization with the town council all the way down to every employee, and the way that it's budgeted, it means that goals can actually be accomplished. And you've seen that over the last several years as we have done many, many goals for the town and accomplished those. And so these business plan goals are very important to us because they make sure that we are completing the goals that are most important to the town and to the town council. All right. So let's talk about the 5 goals that are selected. So we met back in, it was July, if I remember correctly. We met back in July, and we had a work session. We had a retreat where we discussed the business plan goals and the options for that. And ultimately, the town council selected these 5 as the goals for the year, and I'll cover them now. So the goal number 1 was to initiate a redesign of Freedom Park to expand its use to include more park amenity and programming options for residents. So Freedom Park is a wonderful park for us. It's our dog park. And about 95% of that land is used for that purpose, and it's a lot of land. And it provides an opportunity for us to look at that park and reimagine it as something that provides more amenities for our residents than just simply a dog park for it. So we're really excited about that goal. Again, this is the planning year for us, right? So begin planning what that park would look like in a redesign. Goal number 2 is initiate phase 1 of the wayfinding study for the addition of town entryway monuments and directional signage. And this is the one that Councilmember Simmons was just referring to a second ago about there's, not real clarity and alignment around this particular item. The way that the goal is written in the business plan goals is that the first part of the goal is to establish what is phase 1 on that. So phase 1 has not yet been established. As a result, the budget for this one is still just kind of preliminary numbers for it. Now, the good part is that the 2 primary funding sources that we are using for this, one of them being the hotel occupancy tax, and the second one being what I'll call reserve general fund monies, right, that we have in our equipment replacement fund. And we've already set aside most of that money, are 2 sources of money in which all of it's already in the bank, right? So if we decide that we're going to move something faster or slower than where we are right now, it simply takes a budget amendment from the council at that time to amend the budget to appropriate that funding in the current fiscal year, and then we'll go ahead and spend it. You don't have to go looking for the source of money some other location for it. It's already there and set aside. It just needs now to be appropriated by the council when you determine the full value of that amount for it. I think there's lots of conversations for us to have still around the wayfinding topic for this, because there's not a lot of alignment on what it is that the council wants to do. For it, we plan on having another work session with the council here in the next few meeting times. For us, we haven't set the date for that one exactly yet, but we will be having another conversation where we begin to try and figure out what does this look like in the future. Okay. So that's where we are with goal number 2. Goal number 2 is kind of in that pending category to establish what phase 1 is and then appropriately allocate that money in the budget for the year. Any questions on that item before I move forward, since I know that's probably one of the biggest question marks for next year?
Let's keep going.
All right.
We're good.
Goal number 3 is to initiate the design to reimagine Trophy Club Park, right? Consistent with the Trophy Club Park master plan for the following areas: the park entry, the central day camping area, the community park, festival area, and the adventure area. So that's 5 of the main areas. Think of it kind of the closest to you when you would first enter Trophy Club Park. They're off of Trophy Park Drive. This is a really exciting project. We have the opportunity to look at that park and really start to activate it in a way that I think the Army Corps of Engineers has kind of always hoped that it would be activated for it. And so we do have the lease that we need to renegotiate with them in this upcoming year, and that's really phase 1 of this project. It is to negotiate that lease in a way that's going to make us successful as we move forward in the future. And then from there, begin that redesign to be able to, or that designing process to lay out these areas and then obviously fund those areas as well. It would be future year opportunities for us. All right, goal number 4 is to establish identify and establish an asset management plan for all of Trophy Club's real property, right? So for most people, this probably sounds like a snoozer, but it's really interesting to the council and to staff. We have a lot of real property in the town, and we need good survey work around those properties to understand where they are, what their, what the boundaries are, and make sure that we have an accurate record of those things, which we do not have today. This provides an opportunity for us to.
Can you just give the audience an example of something you might be speaking about?
Sure. In fact, Matt, you may have one off the top of your head already. Is there a particular property that you're thinking of?
I was snoozing.
Wake up.
Exactly. That's a good one. Yeah, so a good example would be right at the end of Trophy Club Drive, right? So,
Yes.
so Trophy Club Drive at the very end is a lot of land there that the town owns for it. Some of it actually is a little bit even developable within that space.
And that backs up to the golf course. Is
It
that the
does,
one you're
yeah,
talking
the
about?
golf course, but
So,
also the
yes.
core property, right, and things like that. And it provides an opportunity for us to understand that property a little bit better and be more appropriate and able to respond to requests for something new in the future once we have all that work completed.
Okay.
All right, and then the area of upholding housing standards, the last goal is to assess the existing residential zoning classifications and propose improvements for it. So this one is, as time passes by, right, and this isn't like a bad thing, it just happens over time as people change, as communities begin to develop differently in different patterns. You need to take a look at your existing zoning classifications and make sure, is this what we really want today, to make sure that we are facilitating development in the future without being a burden in the governmental side. As, you know, our friends from the Highlands HOA had noted, the process of getting something changed zoning-wise takes a long time for it. And so if we can do those things on the front end, and we can begin to make some of those opportunities a little bit easier for residents, everyone wins in that situation, especially when there are things that we know as a community we're all supportive of. They're just not written in the code in a certain way that allows us to do that.
And so currently, just again, for others to understand, when somebody wants to make an adjustment to their home, they have to go through the Board of Zoning adjustment.
Correct.
And sometimes that can take months. And if that's something that's kind of common, that the next house would want to do the same thing, it would be in the ordinance so that you didn't have to go through months of waiting.
Exactly.
That's, I don't know if I'm exactly
No,
saying
you're
it,
exactly right.
But you got it? So, and as we're going into a new phase in Trophy Club, we're going to be having more homes being either scraped down, redesigned, added on, and so forth and so on. And I think we're wanting to have a little more, I hate to use the word control, but we want our environment to maintain it, who we are. And so we want to have kind of hands-on in that. Is that okay? Does that
Yep,
make sense?
absolutely, yeah. A great example would be if we hadn't done the Highlands landscaping change tonight zoning-wise, individual property owners who wanted to only have one tree could have come and sought it through the zoning board of adjustments, right? To only have one tree in their yard as a variance for that. But that's a very long, lengthy process for each person, or you can, when you know you're okay with it, you just update everything all at one time, and that allows everyone to have that right as they move forward.
That's good.
Yeah, another great example is the attached garage, detached garage.
Correct.
Well, you can, it has to be detached, but you can make it 10 inches away from your house. It's like, well, guys,
Yeah.
let's just get practical about this.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
there are a lot of things that are going to be looked at.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank
so we have the opportunity now to look at those things
Yeah.
and to revise those things. So really exciting as we continue to move that forward. So those are the 5 goals for the year. Again, you have Freedom Park design, you have Trophy Park design as well, you have the wayfinding package for it, you have the real property, the survey work for the real property, and then you have the residential zoning as well as the 5 business plan goals for the year. And within that, then it goes to all the department heads, right? So they are responsible for those, for many of those items, and it becomes part of their work plan for it. And then they work with their staff to make sure that those things are accomplished in the timelines that the council desires. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any. Thank you.
Anybody have questions?
Clerk, you want to talk about item 2 or,
Item 15?
No.
no, goal 2?
Wayfinding.
Oh,
Wayfinding.
we're going to do that. So wayfinding piece of it, we explained.
Yeah, we're going to
We don't
have-
have resolution on that, so we're going to chair
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. And just to bring up this point, right, because it's not decided yet, even if anything is going to be done.
Right.
If the idea is that nothing is to be done on that one, we will simply amend our business plan goals for the year, right? Organizations do that. When something changes, we'll make a change to that, and we'll figure that out at the time.
So if that one drops off, do we add another one?
You can.
Okay.
Yep.
And then there's a budgetary piece of it as well. There's $600K allocated for wayfinding that we have right now that we haven't decided.
Yeah, but that budget, that money for that is coming from hot tax, which has very specific ways that you can use it.
Right, we just haven't.
And we just need that
Approved it yet.
discussion. We need to have that discussion
Yeah.
when we're going to do another kind of workshop session on this.
Yeah. We will not be spending any money on wayfinding until those questions get
No,
answered.
no.
The plan item is to determine what the plan will
Correct.
or will not
That is correct.
encompass. Correct. Yeah, makes sense.
Yep.
Okay, so we need a motion on the, did we already done this?
No.
I'm
No.
forgetting. Okay, I need a motion for number 11, please.
I'll move to adopt the Town of Trophy Club fiscal year 2027 business plan.
Second. Who seconds? Anybody?
You got it.
No. Gary seconds. All those in favor? I'm not supposed to second. Okay, we go now to item 12.
Consider approval of the fiscal year 2027 compensation plan effective October 4th, 2026.
Good evening again, Mayor and Council. This item is the annual review of and approval of the town's compensation pay plan as required by the compensation policy adopted in 2023. As part of this year's review, staff considered our benchmark agencies, which are generally proposing adjustments of 3 to 5% along with federal and DFW CPI data. Balancing those market indicators with the resources available in the fiscal year 2026-27 budget, Staff is recommending a 1.5% cost of living adjustment to the town's pay ranges and all current employee salaries. This recommendation supports council's goal of maintaining competitive compensation while remaining mindful of the town's overall financial position. And I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Questions? Anybody? No one? We're good?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the 2027 compensation pay plan.
Second.
Clark seconds, all
I
those.
just have, hang on, I just have,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have a request.
Okay.
That we put a subcommittee together to review the current compensation policy and have that subcommittee make some recommendations to update the policy, because in my 30 years of HR experience, there are some technical challenges with the policy that I would like a subcommittee to review and work with Brandon on bringing back to the council.
Okay. Brandon, we'll do that.
Make that a follow-up item to
Yeah,
follow up
we'll make
on.
that a follow-up.
Okay. Yep, yeah.
Okay. Is there a time schedule you want on this, or?
I think we could do it before we get into the budgeting process next year, just so it would,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
Okay.
So now, all those in favor, raise your hand. All those opposed, motion passes.
Thank you, Sean.
Item 13, consider resolution establishing the debt financing plan and tax rate goal for the fiscal year 2027 budget and the fiscal year 2027-2032 capital improvement program.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I'll briefly review the town's fiscal year 2026-27 debt financing plan and tax rate goal, and ask for council's consideration of the resolution approving the plan. The overall strategy remains consistent with last year. The plan is intended to responsibly manage the town's debt while supporting infrastructure needs and maintaining long-term financial stability. It is also aligned with the annual budget and capital improvement program. This slide provides a summary of the town's current general fund debt obligations, with approximately $25.2 million in outstanding principal as of September 30th, 2026. Here's a look at the projected future debt issuances through 2046. Beginning in 2042, the plan assumes shortening maturities from 15 years to 10 years, while maintaining the long-term INS tax rate goal of approximately 10.5 cents. Overall, the plan provides a framework for balancing our infrastructure needs with debt affordability and long-term financial sustainability. That concludes the overview, and I'll be happy to take any questions.
Questions? Man, y'all are silent tonight.
I'll just, since I'm on the budget committee that reviewed this stuff, I'll say that what this really represents is a continuation in both the cases of the debt and the capital improvement plan, a continuation of the strategy that we discussed and built upon every year to just try to maintain a good long-term outlook on both of those. We referred to the INS rate earlier and trying to maintain a 10-cent INS rate. Part of moving the debt around and forecasting what we're going to have for debt finance projects is a big part of that as well. April, appreciate your team's work on all that as always. It's a lot of numbers, and you guys do a good job of making it make sense for everyone, so appreciate it.
And I think most importantly, it gives us a sense of confidence as to where we're going. We're going straight down the road, and we know where we're going and how we're going to get there, and this is really good. Thank you.
Large ticket items that you have to plan for and as far out in advance as you reasonably can. So
Right.
it's important.
It's really cool. Okay, we need a.
I'll move that we adopt the FY 2027 to 2032 capital improvement program.
Okay, you need a second?
Second.
Oh, sorry, I read the wrong one. Apologize.
We're all confused.
We normally have about half this many items, so.
I know, we're
It's
really
budget season.
extended ourselves
Yeah.
tonight.
So, I'll move that we approve the resolution establishing the debt financing plan and tax rate goal for the FY 2027 budget and the FY 2027 to 2032 capital improvement program.
And so Clark seconds that. All those in
Sorry,
favor,
Clark.
raise your hand high. Okay.
That doesn't mean that I'm going to vote for bonds.
No, you never will.
You never will, that's right.
No discussion. The discussion's closed.
Item 14, consider an ordinance amending the town's Code of Ordinances, Chapter 1, General Provisions, Division 4, Trophy Club Park to revise usage fees, and Appendix A fee schedule, Article A1.000, General Provisions to revise the Police Department Special Events Personnel Fee and Parks and Recreation and Special Event Fees.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is for consideration of an ordinance updating the town's fee schedule for fiscal year 2026-27. As part of our annual review, staff evaluated the town's fees to ensure they remain consistent with current operations, programs, and services. The majority of the proposed changes are related to Parks and Recreation, including establishing rental fees for the new Recreation and Community Center and updating fees for parks, athletics, aquatics, summer camps, and other recreational programs. There is also an adjustment to the Police Department's Special Event Personnel Fee. Overall, these changes establish the fee structure needed for the new Recreation and Community Center and ensure our existing fees accurately reflect the services and facilities provided by the town. With that, I'll be happy to take any questions.
There were different questions regarding fees. Y'all have any questions on this? Everybody okay? No questions?
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 14.
I'll second.
And Ryland seconds. All those in favor, raise your hand. It's a done deal. Next. Good job.
Item 15, conduct a public hearing for the fiscal year 2027 proposed budget and fiscal year 2027-2032 capital improvement program, and consider an ordinance adopting the fiscal year 2027 annual budget for the fiscal year beginning October 1, 2026 through September 30th, 2027, and making appropriations for each fund and department. And Mayor, I'd like to note, when this item is considered, state law requires a roll call vote.
Oh, help me remember. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This evening, we are holding the required public hearing. Do we need to open?
And I need to open it. You ready? It's 8:03.
Okay, this evening, we are holding the required public hearing on the fiscal year 2026-27 proposed budget. Notice of the public hearing was published in the newspaper and posted on the town's website in accordance with the required notice provisions. To date, the town has not received any public comment regarding the proposed budget. Following the public hearing, staff will request council consideration and approval of the fiscal year 2026-27 proposed budget with a roll call vote. The proposed budget is based on a tax rate of 0.412864 per 100 evaluation, which is the same rate adopted for fiscal year 2026. Of the total rate, 0.312864 is dedicated to maintenance and operations, and 0.100000 is allocated to interest and sinking, which supports the town's debt obligations. For fiscal year 2026-27, total budgeted revenues are projected at approximately $28.3 million, including $17.9 million in the general fund. Total budgeted expenditures are projected at approximately $31.7 million, with $18 million related to the general fund. Here's a look at the high-level summary of all town funds included in the proposed budget. Since council's last review during the July 27th budget workshop, the most significant updates are related to employee benefits and compensation. The medical benefit costs have now been finalized at an average increase of about 9%, compared to the original estimate of a little over 33%. In addition, the proposed cost of living adjustment has been reduced from 3% to 1.5%. The major changes in the proposed budget primarily relate to personnel and the addition of the new Recreation and Community Center. The Recreation and Community Center results in updated parks and recreation fees, additional programming, and the addition of a recreation coordinator and part-time staff to support facility operations and expanded services. Other personnel changes include restructuring fire and EMS staffing, converting a part-time parks maintenance position to full-time, outsourcing human resources, and providing a 1.5% COLA and merit increases for qualifying employees. Next, I'll provide a brief recap of the proposed capital improvement program. We won't be approving this program on this item. It'll be the next agenda item. I'm just lumping the presentation together, so just a little heads up there. The fiscal year 2027 through 2032 capital improvement program includes more than $24 million in planned infrastructure investment over the 6-year period. The plan is designed to advance council's vision, maintain critical infrastructure, enhance quality of life, and support long-term fiscal and environmental responsibility. Key projects include street replacements, sidewalk improvements, park design work for Trophy Club Park, redesign efforts for Freedom Park, wayfinding signage, ADA transition improvements for the linear trail, and median refurbishments. This final summary highlights the capital improvement program and projected expenditures by department. Full project details are included in the fiscal year 2026-27 proposed budget and capital improvement program in the agenda packet, as well as on the town's website. Before closing, I would like to thank the Finance Subcommittee and the town manager for their time, dedication, and support throughout this process. This budget cycle included several challenges, but with their guidance and staff's work, we were able to present council with a balanced general fund budget and a flat tax rate. As mentioned at the beginning of this presentation, this item does require a roll call vote of the council, and I'll be happy to take any questions you have.
Any questions?
We have to close the public hearing first.
Oh, yeah, thank you. 808, any questions? Comments?
So just a couple comments. Thanks for working through this. You guys had to make some hard decisions. We had to make some hard decisions. And I think we're seeing Trophy Club transition from a growth community to basically a flat community. And so going forward, we're gonna have to make hard decisions on how we spend money or whether we're gonna increase taxes or not. Obviously, I pay taxes in this community. I don't wanna see them go up. So it's gonna continue to be hard decisions and spending money responsibly for the folks that sent us here.
Yeah, and I would like to say, along with that, we've already touched on it a little bit, but this capital improvement program, I just, personally, as the mayor, I continue learning and learning and learning, and I think one of the most favorite thing about this budget for me is capital improvements. I love to go to the capital improvements and look at the design from now until 2030 as to what sidewalks are going to be repaired, what streets are going to be repaired, when, and where the money's coming from. And we've already seen the debt chart, or the bond chart. And sometimes I will have residents say, okay, I see street repairing everywhere. Well, yeah, if you would go to this capital improvement plan, you're gonna see all the streets, right now, paint, rock, and all these streets. And then on down the road, well, why aren't my streets being taken care of? Well, let's go look at the capital improvement plan, and it will show you when and or if ever. So I just encourage anyone who may be listening to this to go to your website, take out this strategic plan, and go to the capital improvements and see what we're doing, because it definitely helps keep us, again, going down the road, addressing the key #1 issues that the council determined. I just had to say that because I love the capital improvements. I carry it with me everywhere I go. Not really, but it is nice to know what's being done. So any other comments? Yes.
I want to piggyback on what Clark said. We had to do quite a bit of finagling just to get to a flat tax, and we got there. That's the good news. The more challenging news is every year going forward, it's going to be more difficult and more difficult and more difficult. So we as a council are going to have to start thinking out of the box a little bit in terms of how are we going to address these ongoing financial challenges that we really haven't had to do in the last several years, but it's coming.
And so this outsourcing of human resources is an example of taking a hard look at what we can do and still maintain high quality, efficiency, and so forth. Okay, do I need a motion?
I make a motion that we approve agenda item number 15. And do we need to have
Oh,
16
we
as a
need to
separate
vote.
issue?
Yeah,
Separate one?
we have to.
All right.
Yes.
At the vote.
Need a
15.
Roll
second?
call vote.
We have to have roll
Second?
call vote.
I'll second.
Thank you.
Okay, got it. Okay, ready?
I'll do roll call. Councilmember Nelson?
Aye.
Councilmember Simmons? Mayor Pro Tem Rowe?
Yay.
Mayor Tiffany?
Yes.
Councilmember Sheridan?
Yes.
Councilmember Ash?
Yes.
Councilmember Flynn?
Yes.
All in favor, 0 opposed.
Okay, thank you. Now, we-
Mayor, I make a motion that we approve the capital improvement program as presented.
Second.
thank you. All those in favor? That was item 16. Right? Yeah, go to 17.
Item 17, discussion and consideration of action regarding efforts by the town to complete the transfer of water and wastewater assets to Trophy Club Municipal Utility District Number 1.
Mayor?
Yes, okay, this is Dennis Sheridan's agenda item, and he will open it up.
It's
We'll go
8:12,
there.
so I was thinking it would be later and we might postpone this, but I'd like to continue having this tonight. The town owns the water tower over by the high school and the water assets that go through the pit and the other areas of the town. There were resolutions given. They did not transfer assets. They gave the intent to transfer the assets. By the way, you cannot transfer real estate by a resolution. Has to be by a deed. The MUD has retained a litigation attorney, which means they want to sue us. And that attorney has established communications with our town attorney. The MUD's regular attorney, in my opinion, has insinuated or threatened to take legal action against the town. Too much of this issue has been behind closed doors. For an example, the other night at the MUD meeting, they started to do it openly. Then they immediately went into executive session. We still don't understand their side yet. But I need to be open. I want, my first goal was to have all the documents open to the public, which tonight, being part of this agenda, accomplished that goal. The other is we need to clarify. We need clarity as far as what the water systems issues are between the town and the MUD. We need to explain the town's viewpoint on the water system assets. What has happened? What does the resolution describe the intent? And what has to happen? How to proceed? What are the real issues to be resolved? What issues will not be resolved? And determine a pathway to complete resolution. And I'll ask the town manager to finish. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Dennis. So as we get started here, I want to kind of just lay the groundwork for what my goal is for this presentation. It is to outline what the dispute is, at least as the town understands it, between the MUD district, right, and the town of Trophy Club. Now, I'll caveat that with, can I say for certain that I understand exactly what their disputes are with this? And the answer is not completely. So we are giving you the information that we know as we know it for that. That is not saying that I understand 100% their view, but I can certainly put in, during this presentation, the way that they have phrased that dispute to us at different times and in different ways, and hope to kind of do that as accurately as possible. So, so as we go through, just kind of understand our side of it, I understand perfectly. Their side of it is their side, and I'm trying to interpret what it is that their side might be based on some of the comments and interactions we've had primarily with their attorney with this, because not a lot of this is, virtually none of it is really discussed in open session for clear understanding of what exactly that position is, okay? So let's get started with, first of all, definitions on it. You're going to hear me talk about a lot of different things during this presentation. One of them is a public water system. You'll see it abbreviated as PWS. All right, and this part is important in understanding what a public water system is, okay? So a public water system, I'm going to read a little bit of this part just to make sure that everyone understands. It's a system for the provision to the public of water for human consumption, okay, through pipes or other constructed conveyances, okay? So it is the system that provides water to people who drink it, okay? The term includes any collection, treatment, storage, and distribution facilities under the control of the operator of such system and used primarily in connection with such system, and any collection or pre-treatment storage facilities not under such control, which is used primarily in connection with such system, okay? So the idea there is that it is all of this stuff that goes along in order for you to convey water to people, okay? But notice there that it says it's facilities under the control of the operator. It says nothing about ownership in the middle there, okay? So under the control, in other words, they're using it for the provision of water. Water and wastewater assets are the physical infrastructure used for the provision of water and wastewater services to the public, okay? A public water system is different than the waste and wastewater assets. Those are two different things. When we're talking about the system, we're talking about the system that conveys the water, right? The assets are the things in the ground or the water towers or things like that that are actually assets, right? The individual items that make up that system. Okay. So again, public water system is a regulated system, right? And the assets are not regulated. We were just talking about the individual things. Okay. All right. We're going to talk about the public improvement district, also, referred to many as the PID here in town for it. And this is authorized under local code, under government code 372. It allows municipalities to undertake projects that confer a special benefit to designated areas. Okay, so a PID is a financing tool for developing a section of town. A lot of people will think that the PID itself is like an entity, right? Like the town council, and then they refer to the PID. The PID is a financing mechanism that the town uses to develop undeveloped areas in order to put infrastructure there, right? So you would take the roads and the pipes and the water system and the trails and the sidewalks, and all of that can be financed, right, for the developer by way of a PID, which for those of us who live in the PID, right, becomes an assessment on someone's property for a period of years, and they pay every year, right, because they're the direct beneficiaries of those improvements that help to establish their property. Okay, so that's what a PID is. ILA, we're talking about a specific contract with the interlocal agreement with the district, with the MUD, that outlines our relationship with them to convey water and wastewater services to the public within the PID district. Okay, so all that infrastructure was used, and since we have this agreement since 2017 that allows for the district to use town-owned assets to deliver water to customers. And it says that they're responsible for maintaining that system, billing the customers. They also get to keep 100% of those revenues, right? The town doesn't keep any amount of that revenue that is collected from those customers and the system for using the infrastructure that is paid for by way of the PID, right? Ultimately by the town. All right, so that gives us some definitions now to work from, okay? So several years ago, so many years ago, right, the MUD was established prior to the town. And as a result, the MUD's boundaries were different from the town, okay? So the MUD's boundaries go from a little bit Trophy Club and over into Westlake for it. And what that did was kind of create this system where the town and the MUD needed to work together to provide water service to those who lived in the PID area, okay? So those who lived in the PID, that's why it was established. It created all the infrastructure, right? But it also provided an assessment tool for us to be able to pay for that infrastructure. And then the ILA allows us to work with them on that process. There's an easier way to do that, far easier way to do that. And luckily the town council and the MUD worked together just a couple of short years ago to move the boundaries of Trophy Club's, of the district to include all of Trophy Club. And that provided for a lot more uniform system all the way throughout. Lots of benefits to it on it. One of them being that the water and wastewater system could be wholly owned by the district, and water could be delivered through one entity instead of this combination where we had actually two water systems, with the town having one and the district having one. Okay, so a lot of benefits from that. Okay, so,
Real quick, I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but what you just said is a perfect illustration of your first slide. Brandon said we had 2 water systems. All the pipes connected.
correct.
All the water flowed the same place.
Yeah.
So a system is a functional tool, a paperwork item almost in a
Correct.
sense.
Exactly, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. No, perfect example of that, right? So even though all the pipes were connected, on paper, it was 2 different systems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, on it.
Clear as mud.
Good.
That takes us today. What is the actual dispute for what's going on? So we've been in this process now for about a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer than that now, on it to expand the boundaries of the mud for a couple of purposes. And let's only focus on the water. There was the fire purpose that's kind of gone aside. We're only talking about the water service for today for us. So we expanded the boundaries in order to allow for the district to have ownership over that entire system, consolidate the public water systems into one, and then we didn't have to do this weird joint sharing of things where some people would get it on their water bill, some people would pay it through their taxes, and it was all just kind of very, very different for it on it. All right. As we began that process, we were kind of always clear about that this process needed certain steps, right? We needed to expand the boundaries, then we needed to consolidate the water systems, then we needed to worry about conveyance of the assets, and then finally, when it needed to terminate the ILA. Okay, all those things would be necessary in order for us to complete this project, to make sure that it was done properly, legally, that it was defensible, right, that it was approved and transparent the way that it needed to be.
And just for a second,
Please.
in this process, in this sequence, and that the dispute, that we want to give it to them, we want to just, there it is our goal.
Correct.
And we're not charging money for it. It's just the method of doing it legally and also to protect the town in future sequences.
Exactly.
Got it.
Yeah, no, absolutely, yep.
And then when we talk about asset, that asset is the tower, correct?
And one of the assets is the tower, correct, the water.
Yes.
One of them.
Yes, one
Yeah,
of them.
yeah, no, just one of them.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that, but, so we've got that, and then we've got this, the asset.
Yes.
So I just want to be clear that
In the asset.
that's the
That's correct. And
That's-
the reason that some of the confusion from my point of view was trying to divide up the assets because
Yeah.
to give a lift station, to give the water pipe, to
Right.
give the water system requires an ordinance, in my opinion. But to give the tower, that's on real estate.
correct.
Texas law, it has to, we have no choice. It has to be done by deed.
Yeah.
So that's why I
So you make
separate
that
the two
real
out.
Good, okay, excellent.
That-
Yeah.
am I-
Clark, did you have
We
a
still own we still hold the deed, correct?
Correct, yes, we do, yes, yep. So the dispute is, right, so on the town side, is that we are only 2 steps through this process of a 4-step process for us, right? That we have, we've completed the expansion, the consolidation has happened,
Go to the next slide.
right? Well,
I thought-
we're gonna stay on this one for
I'm
just another
sorry.
second, right? But that conveyance
Well, it seemed to
and
me like you were
ILA,
saying the same
the mayor wants to get out of here sooner.
No.
No, 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 no,
conveyance-
no.
Not gonna happen.
Sorry, Mayor, you've put
That
the
next
cord in the
slide
jukebox.
is- That next
We're gonna
slide
go all the
is
way through.
explaining it, I thought.
Okay.
Sorry.
So is that, yeah, so number 1 and 2, that those things have occurred, but that the other things have not, right? I interpret their reaction to be that 1 and 2 have happened, and as a result, 3 and 4 have happened, right? So in other words, the conveyance and the ILA are things that are just kind of automatic because 1 and 2 have happened with that. So our dispute is, right, is town council approval and the execution of conveyance documents in a necessary step in this process or not, right? That really is the level of dispute on it, because the town council has approved nothing.
The resolution did not transfer any.
Correct,
Assets.
exactly, yes.
That's.
Okay, so if we go to kind of these 4
Asset
distinct
being the
actions,
tower.
right? Boundary expansion is completed, the public
This is
water
us.
system has been consolidated on that part. That, however, occurred because the district attorney got ahead of us in that process. We requested that they petition the TCEQ for outline the process for us to use to make sure that both 3 and 4, right, the conveyance of the documents and all those different things would all happen at the same time. But they went ahead of us without our permission, right, and said, we want to go ahead and consolidate these public water systems now. The town council has never voted, ever, to consolidate the public water system. So that has just simply not happened.
And I'll just add to that, that's one of your functions under the charter. It's a sovereign function of the town to control water systems. So that was not an option that you had because the district got out in front of us. And if you look at the resolution where we expanded the boundaries, it talks about working together to petition the TCQ, and that didn't happen.
And that's why you have a note, no, that's why
Oh, I'm
there's a
sorry.
note on the bottom.
Correct, exactly, yes. And
Okay.
we've made them aware of
And
that.
the word is fraudulent misrepresentation.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, one of the arguments that has been made to me repeatedly is that because of the consolidation, the town no longer owns its assets. So the argument being, if we can consolidate without your approval, then we've taken the property from you.
Okay. And if this may be the, correct me if this is not the right spot. When you say that they think they own it, the town owns the water tower because the town built the water tower, and the check that paid the contractor who did it was a town check.
That's right. Town contractor, town check. Now, there was,
Now, any
Yeah.
contributing funds to the town which paid for this do not transfer ownership.
that's right.
Okay, thank you.
That's right.
Nor did
And
the-
I'll add
did-
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead.
So the ILA and the TCQ enforcement action identified the tower as being owned by, this is the enforcement action in previous years that basically was the impetus for us having two separate systems and then also having the ILA that would resolve these issues. So lost my train of
Okay,
thought.
well, let me just contribute for a second.
Yeah.
Any monies that were paid to the
Yes,
town from the
okay.
developer, from the MUD paying, what, a couple $100,000 to the developer who gave it to the town, who
That's right.
paid for the, that
Yeah.
does not give anybody else ownership.
That's right. You got me back on track.
Got it.
So the ILA talks about the MUD contributing, okay? And so as far as we can tell, that was a necessary part of the TCQ compliance. It's written in multiple places, but it doesn't convey ownership. And I think that a good example of that is your roundabout. So we do this all the time in the state of Texas with other governmental entities, and they don't claim ownership just because they help fund a project. Right now, you have the county helping fund a project. We're not conveying any easements. We're not conveying the road. They don't believe that they own it.
Okay, and as what Brandon was talking about before, PID bonds provide funds, but do not provide ownership or create a lien or give any control of the system.
That's right. And so the contribution, as far as we can tell, from the developer was also funded by PID bonds. And the developer funded that on behalf of the MUD. So we're not seeing any kind of contribution directly from the MUD's coffers. And we've asked for that information. We've asked for any evidence of ownership, and none has been provided. So I would like to ask again today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, Brandon.
No, you're just fine. All right, so let's talk a little bit about some of the more recent developments in what is escalating the dispute between us and the district, okay? So, first of all, on June 23rd, the district provided what is a second notice of termination of the ILA, right, which is that interlocal agreement that we have with the district for the delivery of their service through our assets, okay? On it. In that letter, a couple things were done, right? It told us that the contract would terminate on July 21st, 2026. And we're going to get into some language a little bit later on. I'm just kind of hitting the highlights before we dive into details. That the 6 months notice applies to any term, and we are in a term, so therefore they can cancel with 6 months notice whenever. For it, that the town no longer has a public water system, back to Dean's point, right? That continues to be reminded us that because we have no water system, therefore we have no right to the assets for it. And the contract's conditions no longer exist, that the town's 2024 resolution, at which we consented to the expansion of the boundaries, right, provided district ownership to, for those water and wastewater assets, and that and it directed the town to execute the attached warranty deed that they had provided to clarify their ownership as opposed to kind of, the one that we had sent previously for that. Okay. Additionally, it states that they spent approximately $90,000 on PID billing and mailings and will forego reimbursement if the deed was delivered prior to July 21st. I think you all understand PIDs relatively well. I would say that we did ask for clarification from them. What are you talking about with the $90,000 on that? We've received no answer back. I'm not sure that we ever will for it. But the point there is, you all understand how PIDs work. It would be virtually impossible for them to have real PID billings or mailings that they did on our behalf, right? So the PID is an entity that you all approve an assessment plan every year. We send out the mail, we send all that information out to everyone. It is collected on their taxes, is how they pay it for us. The MUD, through the agreement that we have with them, remits that amount to us, right? So it's remitted to the MUD remits that back to us. So I'm not quite sure exactly what those fees possibly could be for it. If we receive it, we'll be happy to share them with you on what those costs are from them. But they made this demand for $90,000, right, without any documentation supporting that, but just saying they have $90,000 of costs that they'll forego if we sign their version of the deed for it. And again, the district's enclosed deed, it conveyed the tower, the land, and the improvements and everything with it, but it does not include the town's draft's express reservation of the wireless lease and easement rights, and we'll get into that a little bit more in detail, right? So that was an important part of what it was that we had put in the deed originally.
And I think it's important to point out that everything around the operation of the billing function, which has existed since the PID was established, that since 2013 has been covered in the ILA that we've been operating under. So as long as that ILA is still active, which it is, then that dictates how the operations of billing and money moving around between the two entities would go, right? So
Yeah.
that's an active agreement between the two governmental entities, and it's covered. So there's really no basis to propose a change to how that works because it's covered in the ILA.
Yeah, well, by way of two agreements, right? One of them is we have an actual billing agreement with them. I can't remember exactly what it's called. That's different from the ILA itself. They work in tandem.
But they
right?
run
work in tandem
together.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that was brought to our attention that they're doing that.
Yeah.
But
And
the other
basically
thing
they
that
could
was
stop
brought up
doing
in this line
Correct.
is if any one of those microwave towers or whatever, telephone antennas, do anything to that tower, the MUD has approval of that, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Even now, without ownership, with the town owning, so that if one of those antennas needed to drill a hole in the tank, that requires MUD approval, as we stand today.
Correct, yeah, because they're
nothing to
in
do with
charge of
ownership.
those as if
Right.
they are their own.
Got
Right,
it.
exactly.
Thank you.
Mhm, Yep. Yeah, so the town doesn't, if a cell tower company comes to us and says, we'd like to make some modifications on the water tower, our response would be, go talk to the MUD.
And that's dictated in the ILA.
Yeah.
Because the ILA is the operational document that governs how that is, which is ultimately, since the two water systems, quote unquote, are really just a single system in actuality, we really have only ever owned those assets on paper as an entity because we had a PID.
Correct.
And the MUD boundaries had not yet been expanded. So for all practical purposes, we were paper owners of those assets and remain to be until the warranty deed is executed. However, just to clarify, MUD District has always operated, maintained, dealt with all operations related to that, correct?
That's right. That's required in the ILA, and without the ILA, there's no lease. It's not a lease agreement.
Right.
So they don't own the property, so they don't have any other authority without the ILA to operate and use the tower and access it.
Does TECQ get involved with this because they're the operator of the system?
Yes, that's a good question. So I've talked to the TCQ at length about some of this. And first of all, there was an argument that was made to me that,
May I ask, has that been recently with
No, this is several months ago.
Oh, okay, thank you.
So we're trying to work through some of the issues and just get some clarification from the TCQ. One of the clarifications is that by changing the name of the tower in the TCQ system, that it doesn't convey ownership. And I mean, it'd be very absurd if some, assistant water director down at the TCQ could convey your property just by changing its name in the system. So that doesn't convey any kind of property. From their perspective, and this goes back to the definition that Brandon originally read you, that they're not really interested in who actually physically owns the property, because by definition, as long as the MUD is doing their duty and they're not violating the TCQ rules and regulations, fee ownership could remain in the town forever and ever.
Thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt you on that.
No, you're good, yep. So what was our response to their letter, right? So we believe that they cannot terminate the ILA during the initial term, and we'll talk about that a little bit here in the next section on it. That they're not reading the last sentence correctly, right? The way that it reads, that thereafter means that only after the initial period can they actually terminate this agreement for it. That there's sections of the agreement that talk about that this is basically an unbreakable agreement for it. And if you think about it, that makes a lot of sense, right? We were entering into an agreement with them for water delivery in assets that the town owned, okay? You don't want either party somewhere in the middle of it saying, we'd like to cancel this agreement now, right? After everyone's put millions and millions of dollars literally into the ground, right, to be able to make this system work, someone backing out with notice was not a way to do it. In fact, so it says, even if there's a dispute, even if one party is defaulting on things, it can't be terminated in that situation because it is meant to provide water to customers, right? That is an important life necessity. We have we have a responsibility to deliver it, okay? And that the ILA remains necessary while the district operates and uses town assets, as Dean was just mentioning. There's no other provision for them to be able to use town-owned infrastructure and then pump water through it and collect revenues that they keep and all these different things. The ILA lays all that out for it. It is a protection to both of our entities to make sure that it is in place until the assets are actually conveyed for it. On the property deed response, right? Remember they sent us a deed. We were saying that council approval is necessary for any of those things, right? For it. That the deed omits the protections that the town's has the existing wireless rights that the town has for it. And then we reoffered our January 2nd and January 14th conveyance instruments for them. And then we requested information about that $90,000 question mark that was sent on the PID billings. Okay, so for the sake of time, I think I might go to just the next slide here. I think this one outlines it a little bit better. Okay, so the idea that the district shall assume ownership. So in the initial resolution that we passed for the expansion of the boundaries, and that's an important distinction. The purpose of the resolution was for the expansion of boundaries. That's what we were doing on it. That was the intent of all the parties at the time that we were doing it. It was not to do steps 2, 3, and 4 all at one time with it. It was simply to expand the boundaries. As part of that process, you have to outline who is going to be the keeper of the systems that are being talked about here, right? And so we outlined those things. It was the end state we were identifying, okay? And here's what the sentence says in that section. The resolution says, the district shall assume ownership and control over all public utilities and facilities serving the properties within the district's expanded boundaries as shown on Exhibit A. Okay, so that's what it says with it. The district's position on this one is that the district shall assume ownership and control means that that resolution itself transferred the property over to them. Okay, however, you'll read the language here and it says, the district shall assume ownership and control, right? Shall is one of those legal terms for the idea of creating an obligation or must. The district must or has an obligation to assume the ownership and control over all the public utilities and facilities serving the properties for it. That is describing the end state that we're trying to get to, right? The resolution does not state that the town transfers ownership of any of these things over to them, right? That's a different statement than the district shall assume ownership. If it says the town transfers ownership over to, I would agree with them. They have a point. However, the idea that the district simply assumes ownership is not a statement that the town has transferred it.
And can I ask a question about this?
Yeah.
Because the way I imagine, and at some point I'll kind of talk through when we did expand the boundaries, but I imagine as approving that resolution, we were expressing the mutual intent to carry that process forward.
Correct.
Right? That part of the resolution, obviously, we were changing the boundaries, we were approving all that, and then also steps subsequent to that would then take place under this intent, but because there are instruments that have to be exchanged and changed, this doesn't make it happen, this just expresses our intent to make it happen.
Correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then I'll bring up, as a backup to that idea, right? So even if this document was conveying ownership, which it doesn't on that, but even if it were on it, it mentions that it's the items that are identified in Exhibit A, okay? So, and this was brought up during their meeting last week, so I just want to clarify this point because they pointed to a blue, on a big map, they pointed to a little small blue area on it and said, this is the water tower property that we're pointing to here, okay? I had to blow up that section. It's difficult to see on it, so I blew it up so you could kind of look at it in a little bit more accuracy here. The green section there is the water tower property, right? So I think there's just always a lot of confusion around what actually these documents are and what it says for it on it. It's even in the exhibit itself, it's saying the water tower property, the blue area is the areas that are being, that it's referencing as moving over, right? The green areas are not included in the properties that were intended to be moved over.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Brandon has added the water tower.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Right, right,
The
right.
red, I added the red.
That's not shown on the map. And also to clarify, the blue area is the expanded boundaries. That is area that was not located within the PID boundaries.
Prior. Yeah, those are the two areas that are owned by Scott Beck that
Right.
he's got approved for
Yes.
townhome.
That's
Yes,
where we
so you can
townhouse.
see like the pad sites that were closed down. I mean, the purpose there was to get those into the boundaries
Yeah.
of the pit, or the mud. So the water tower that you see there is not part of the expanded boundaries because it was already
was
within the
already there.
boundaries. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So it doesn't, yes.
Yeah, and just to give a colloquial explanation, the properties that weren't in the mud were the properties that were originally belonged to Merdad Moyetti because he didn't want them to be in the mud. If we had something else that was for some other reason, it stayed in the mud. Because back before all this, everything was when there were 5 muds, it was all in the mud and got pulled back out of the mud, so.
All right, let's jump to this slide right here for it. So we're talking now about the cancellation of the ILA. This is where we have a dispute with them, okay? So one of the disputes is that they can cancel the ILA whenever during the initial term on it with just 6 months' notice for it, okay? Here's what the wording says on it. It says that this contract shall remain in effect for an initial term of 99 years. Okay, then there's some language saying actually it goes further if there's still outstanding bonds, okay? But in short version, it remains in effect for an initial term of 99 years. Thereafter, right, meaning after the initial 99 years, this contract shall renew automatically for additional terms of 10 years unless either party provides not less than 6 months prior written notice before the expiration of any term, okay? What it's saying is prior to the 6 months, that if we receive notice from them 1 month before the expiration of the initial term, it would be too late.
Yes.
It needed to be 6 months or more. They've effectively provided notice to us that they will cancel the ILA in reality in the year 2117, I believe is what the year is on it. Because that's when it is, because it's more than 6 months, right? So they've met that definition of it, but they can't just cancel it 6 months out for it.
So do I understand that the key word here is a different sentence, and it starts with thereafter?
Yes, so yes.
So thereafter, all the way to any term is one sentence.
One sentence is
And
dealing with
that's
one
why
context.
it deals with the
Yes,
additional terms,
That's
not
right.
the original term.
that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so again, that's our reading. And as backup to that, right, sections 8.2 and 8.4 say that default does not authorize termination. In other words, you can default on this thing and it's still not terminated. Why? Because again, the water needs to get to the customers at the end of the day. It needs to happen for it. The idea that it could be terminated was never contemplated into this agreement. District reading is that the initial term is any term, right? So they're reading that last sentence as if the beginning part isn't there, and then they're only looking at the before the expiration of any term section, right? So that the initial term is any term, so 6 months notice can end the agreement during that term. And the contract is also terminable because its operating conditions no longer exist, which is the public water system, right? Back to that argument,
Right.
right?
Yeah,
It's that
right.
public water system. These are all
Right.
combined, right, the way that they're being interpreted here for it. And as I have a little note there on the bottom, right, since our position is that the ownership has already been transferred, the ILA would have no merit, right? And we agree that once the properties are conveyed, there is no need for the ILA. We agree to that idea on it, and we should cancel the ILA by agreement by both parties.
Right.
Okay. All right, so now we get to TCEQ approval before council action, right? So on March 25th, 2025, there was interactions between the town attorney and the district attorney regarding the communications with the TCEQ, okay? The TCEQ, the district attorney wrote in the initial draft of it that the town had no objections to this request to consolidate the public water systems into one water system for it. The town received that, right? We did dispute with that idea because we knew that there were other steps still needed to happen, and we were seeking TCEQ direction on how to do that properly. So the town attorney drafted a change, removed that sentence about the town consenting to the consolidation, and instead wrote that we were seeking the TCEQ's assistance in outlining the correct process for us to use as we do all these steps and move forward for it. The district attorney wrote back and said, your changes look good, thank you. And then the town never received a copy of the TCEQ letter that was, or the letter that the district sent to the TCEQ. Our understanding at that point was that the version that was said, your changes look good, was the version that was sent. Unfortunately, later on, we did request the TCEQ when we began to think see the different steps with the public water system consolidation and the assumption that maybe that meant that they believed assets were also owned at the same time. We asked for a letter from that TCEQ, and we're a little shocked, honestly, to notice that the original letter that said that the town had no objections to this request was the one that was sent to the TCEQ for it, which was not at all representative of what the town had positioned ourselves with at that point for it. We would have objected if we had known about that point on it, to let them know.
So we sent a redlined changes to their document.
Yes,
They acknowledged those changes.
yes.
Our assumption was that would be the final version that got sent to TCEQ,
Right.
which wasn't in fact the case at all.
And we didn't know it.
Right. Just a couple clarifications.
Yeah.
You're using the word district attorney. You mean the Mud District's attorney.
sorry, Mud-
Okay, I just want to clarify
catch.
that, right?
Thank you very much.
No,
Yes.
I understand.
Mud's district. Yes.
Then the other one is, this is also, when previously we mentioned it on one of your slides, the word fraudulent was there. This is what you were talking about.
Correct.
Thank you.
So to be perfectly clear and precise, there was a letter sent from the Mud District to us via attorney. We redlined it. It went back. Their attorney acknowledged it, but then the original version got sent to the TCEQ.
Yeah.
Correct. Okay. So the version sent to the TCEQ didn't reflect the town's input, but it stated a position
That the town.
had not yet agreed to.
That's
It
right.
assigned a position to the town.
Are those documents in
Yes,
the
they're
open
in the
record
packet.
that's
They're
in the packet
They're
tonight?
in-
So
they're in-
any citizen that wants to look at it can see it.
You can,
They're
yep.
in here.
Okay,
They're all in here.
so something,
All of his
a
email.
mistake was made, something happened there, and now this has been going on 4 months or so later. You just mentioned, I'm just a guy that got voted in to do this volunteer job. You said it's hard to tell why they're doing what they're doing. My question is it because a mistake was made?
Yeah. So when we learned that the systems had consolidated, our initial reaction was, okay, well, that's great news, right? Well, we are, again, the end state here is that this needs to be taken care of. At that point, we did not imagine that the district would begin taking the position that the consolidation meant they now owned everything. It wasn't until later on that that started happening, and we began to realize, wait a second, this might be part of something that is more intent to try and take these things from us rather than having to sign the documents that the town has provided. Okay. We had always, since the very beginning of this plan, remember that this was a long process that we started off with where we talked about that there was a goal by both entities to have the water owned by the district and to have the fire owned by the town. That was how we originally started this thing. The town has kept up with its intent for all of this. The district really has not, honestly, just to be honest with you, for it. The intent was for the fire part to come as well. That part
Can
has
we
been
keep
left
the
alone.
fire out of this and
Oh, yeah.
just concentrate on what the
No,
issues are?
absolutely. Yep.
Right, please?
So, but it's important to understand that as we were having initial discussions on this, right, we were set up to kind of do a whole bunch of things in time to be able to make sure that these things happened for it. The water tower part of that was supposed to then be a later on document, right, that we would transfer by deed, the water tower, knowing that we had cell tower agreements on there. Okay, and we knew that that point was going to be contentious with the district about the fact that the town was going to retain the revenues from the cellular equipment leases that we had on the towers. Okay. When the conflict over over the district saying that they believe that they already own the water tower came in to it, right? They were doing things like sending us, emails that say, we need you to take council action to clarify that the district actually owns the water tower, right? That wasn't based in reality, right? The town owns it, has the deeds and things like that. That's just not, none of those things were based in what it is that the ownership of the water tower was at that time. Okay, so the town had drafted documents and sent those over to the MUD. Did that on January 2nd and January 14th. Those documents, it conveyed, it was a warranty deed, special warranty deed for the water tower. It approved the consolidation of the systems. It also terminated the ILA, and it also transferred all of the other infrastructure over to the MUD. So it did all of those things all in those documents for it. They have had those documents since January 2nd and January 14th on it, and have not executed those documents. The only thing that they've given permission on is they remove all the references of the cellular equipment on that one, the special warranty deed, and then have sent that back to us and said, here, now go ahead and sign this for it, okay? We've discussed that with the council previously, and the council's direction was to reoffer them those original documents and then basically discontinue negotiations until such time as they sign those original documents. That protected our interest in the cellular equipment leases. Okay. So what holds us up is essentially right now, and I think that this was conveyed a little bit during the meeting last week by one of the district board members for it. What holds us up at this point is the discussion of the telecommunication leases that are on the water tower for it, right? Because that's the language that keeps getting removed whenever we send it over to them. It's, nope, we can't do that for it. All right, so what does it do? It reserves the recorded wireless easements that are on that tower for it. So the town council has approved plats that record those easements on there because they exist today and they are the easements that the town holds for it. It also preserves, the instrument that we've sent them, preserves the direct access, privity, obligations, and revenues through the leases, right? In other words, the town remains in full control of those contracts. It is not given to the district, and then their intent is for us to give them the leases, right? And then they'll just pass along the revenue to us, which when we first had those conversations with them, we were open to that idea. We said, okay, if we can get the leases assigned to you on it, we might be open to doing that. However, then a lot of the conditions started coming out at that point, right? Well, that's fine, but if they come and they change the equipment on the tower, that's going to be something new, and then the revenues will revert to us, right? And things like that. And so it was all these conditions that they started putting on it that made it clear that we would be later locked in a contract dispute with them over the conditions of these monies coming to the town, that we realized, you know what, we need to make sure that these remain in our name with them, directly with the lease company, so that nothing gets in the middle of this thing. There's no reason for us to fight later on about something that we don't need to fight about.
And to be, for clarity's sake, there are multiple leases are they with multiple entities?
Yeah, 3.
And they are telecoms, just for lack of just without going down in the weeds. They're telecom companies. And what is the total annual revenue that the town receives off of those leases?
So last year, I believe it was close to 150,000.
150K.
And I wanted to make a statement that it was suggested that that was not significant in our budget,
Yeah. Okay.
and it is.
Well, that we can debate that.
No, I'm just saying, you know, when I heard that, that was not good.
I'll get to my opinion on that, but neither here nor there.
As far as the control of the leases,
What?
Can't change the
some of the leases do require the leasee to approve any assignment.
Yes.
So we do not control all of the leases to give to somebody if we wanted to, that's one.
Right.
Is control of the equipment on the tower, the leases, any different between under the ILA or under ownership?
No.
So, now, I'm trying to understand it from the MUD side, where they were indicating that they had to have control.
Nothing.
And that's why
nothing would
they
change.
needed ownership. But under the way we're reading the ILA, right? Now, of course, they don't care because they've terminated the ILA. But under the ILA, their control, their operations, their responsibilities, liabilities, and ability to control it are there already.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I have a question, Brandon. What if a new telecom company came about after the transfer of the water tower? They could do it their own deal then, right?
Absolutely, yes.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, one of the other things to be aware of is that while we have long-term agreements, right, I think it's 41, 42, and 47, 2041, 2042, and 2047, on the expiration point of our contracts, they do renew every 5 years up until that point. So there is a point at which either party can terminate the lease agreements for it, right? So if it's not in our name, right, what happens in those renewal terms, right? Could it switch and then become a contract for someone else? It very well could on that. So it just leaves a lot of open doors that should probably remain shut on this one, right? The idea is we want to make sure that nothing gets in the middle of these contractual rights that we have through the expiration of the term for it. And in order to do that, we just remain in the position of having it in our name directly with the cell tower leases through the recorded easements that are already there on the property, right? We're not asking for anything new on that.
So Brandon, quick question.
Yeah.
If I understood you correctly, they're responsible for the maintenance of it, correct?
That is correct.
So what if we just don't give it to them?
If we don't give them the,
We don't give them the water, we don't sign it over to them at all?
correct, yeah, then we keep operating under the ILA.
Yeah,
That's right.
Which,
they would
as
still
flawed as it is, right, there's plenty sections in there that no longer apply. There are sections that apply to the idea that they're providing water through our infrastructure for it. And it's an imperfect system, certainly. I'd like, if it would be, in that situation, it would be best if we all come together to clean it up and just make sure to take all the stuff out that shouldn't be there and just make sure that it's clear to both parties. But if we can't even agree on that, then the current is as good as we're gonna get.
So if we do nothing, we still get water,
Yeah.
no issue.
Correct.
But
And the leases are
if
still in our names.
we do nothing, they're still suing. They're still got the litigation. Now, and.
Now, let me make sure, is that a fact that they are going to sue us, Dean?
It's not a fact.
Okay, thank
No,
you.
okay.
it's-
That's my,
wanting to be
absolutely,
sure
thank
that-
you.
But-
That's my
but clarify
assumption.
that.
It
Would
is-
you hire a litigation or you?
Well,
They have hired a litigator.
yes.
I have talked to him about that. My understanding is that it's not, it's not currently contemplated, but I would say it's within the realm of possibility.
Okay.
I don't think that you hire a litigator
Okay.
if you're not going to litigate.
I just wanted to get that
And,
less.
and if we do nothing and just let everything slide, okay? This town has a history of spending money on lawyers between the MUD and the town. And we're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years, over the decades, where we have conflict or disagreements. It just seems most of the time, we do not try to iron it out between the council and the directors. They just leave it to the lawyers. And it's been documented on how many hundreds of thousands of dollars has been spent on lawyers between the two of us. And it's from the same people, the same taxpayers are paying it.
The same board directors.
Which is what I will
And
get.
the same board of directors go back to 1990-something, or there now, that sued back then, they're suing now.
If I
Or,
understand
excuse me,
you-
potentially suing now.
If I
think-
understand you, it feels like one entity wants to remain relevant.
I think it's fair to state, without trying to speculate in a way that could be irresponsible, it is fair to state that signals are being sent that they're contemplating legal action.
Yeah.
Well, if they weren't, hypothetically, then they would be talking and communicating and negotiating and
open
trying to work this out. The point that you made, Brandon, is spot on. That has not happened. Hasn't happened.
So
For-
their attorney has reached out to me. We've talked. He is familiar with the case. The approach that he took with me was that he wants to help resolve the dispute. One of the questions I had is, and I think there's some fundamental issues here, is why does the MUD think that they own the town's property without a deed? And I think also, some of the arguments have been made that the revenues from the cellular leases are already theirs. They're entitled to it.
Yes.
And so I don't understand in what legal reality those arguments would be made. So I think those are fundamental questions that we need help understanding, because if we can't get past the who really owns this thing right now, then the dispute can't be resolved.
Well, in your brief conversation with this new lawyer, will they help to discover that question?
No, we didn't get to that.
Okay.
I'll just say that he's, the conversation went very well, I thought.
Okay.
Yeah, so a summary is kind of why, what is the town's position? Why is it that way, right? The water tower is town property. I think that's pretty easy to establish on there. The deeds, the people who paid for the bills, for all that. I mean, it is clearly town property. That town council approval is necessary for us to take the next couple steps. It did not just happen automatically. That town council approval is necessary. That TCEQ regulatory matter, right, that they merely changed the name of a public water system and consolidated it. They did not, that had nothing to do with transferring deeds and titles for it. That the town's charter requires these things to be done properly on it, and we want to follow that process. That the town's protection of assets and revenues on those existing telecommunication leases is important to the town, right? Is whatever small amount it is at $150,000 a year is still important to us to preserve in this process. And that the existing ILA provides protections for all of us, in particular the town, right, but also the district, until those assets are transferred, right? So again, our end state is we want all those things to happen for it. We just want to do it in a way that's going to still preserve those wireless communication agreements with the town directly, so that there's no opportunity for a contract dispute later on, okay? So again, and this was kind of going a little bit more about known claims, right? Things that we've known that they've brought up, and then lack of evidence. So these are things where if there's information that they can provide us around these that would help us to understand their position a little bit better, it would be helpful, right? So the first one is the termination during any term, right? We don't see any contract language or authority allowing that termination during the 99 years. If it's somewhere else, we just need to be made aware of that part because it's simply not in the agreement that way. That the public water system consolidation and the 2024 resolutions resulted in district owning all the water and sewer assets. So we're asking for a deed or a council ordinance or a chain of title or TCEQ authority to transfer physical title, something along that line to demonstrate why it is that would have automatically happened without any council approval in the process for it. That the exclusive tower control is necessary for operations and safety, why the recorded town lease easement rights cannot coexist with district ownership for it. So they say that it just can't be that way, right? But without really describing what is the real legal recognition, I understand the idea of not liking it, but this is different from not liking it, right? This is, what is preventing that from actually happening? Existing wireless revenue can be passed through to the town, right? So we're looking for something, well, okay, then give us a binding duration, direct pay protections, right? Renewals, remedies if payments stop, all the types of things that would show that they're in good faith, ensuring that those amounts will never fail coming to us for it.
So let me
Please.
add to that. When we're dealing with the cellular equipment companies, there are a couple things. When we're assigning ownership or payment or rights, usually they're going to require, and even when if we were to convey the property to the MUD, they would require certain things: non-disturbance agreements, attornment agreements, right? Recognition agreements. They want to make sure that their assets are protected, and that the new owner can't just come in there and stop them and terminate the agreement. So they have on-the-ground easements and on-the-ground facilities in addition to facilities that are actually on the tower. Those are recorded in the deed records. They also have easement rights to access the tower when they need to. So these are, and in addition to that, they've recorded memorandums of lease in the deed records. So these are rights that those companies have that have been recorded, and we can't just ignore them.
And then the last one, there's that $90,000 in PID billing and mailing costs. Again, provide invoices, dates, services, allocation method, reimbursement basis. Any of that information would be helpful in determining whether or not that claim has any merit to it. Okay. Let's see, we talked through that one.
So basically, if they would at least come forth and give us information on this lack of evidence, these 4 or 5 items, we could move down the road.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been told that there are title issues. I've looked in the deed records. I see none. I want to know what they are.
Yeah.
So if we got this, we're in a position to negotiate and get an agreement.
Yeah.
If all these 5 things are satisfied.
Correct, yeah, we are looking for, if they are taking a very strong position on these items.
Right, exactly. Oh, I know.
Provide
Yeah.
some basis for that position, as the town has. We've provided to them, response upon response of why it is that our position is what it is, without anything in return that describes it. It just says that it cannot be that way.
And
Right.
that is in the packet tonight, in
Correct.
the
Right.
emails and
Yeah,
attachments.
that's right.
You'll see all those
Okay,
things.
thank you.
For it. So provide some version of backup as to why it is that, what they say it is, that the telecommunication leases cannot exist if they're to take over ownership on it. It cannot exist in our name. Provide a reason why. Right, what is it that, and again, if the reason is, well, it's because they want to be in the permissions position when they want to do work on the tower, that is the world as it exists today. Nothing changes from that. So that absolutely can exist into the future for it.
Well, and I think it needs to be stated also that if trying to open up the leases that currently exist in such a way that invites 3 separate telecom entities into the conversation, all 3 of whom can dwarf us with whatever they want to try to negotiate.
Yeah.
Explain the benefit to the residents of this. One of the things you called out in your previous slide, which was if the revenue can be transferred to the town, why isn't there a proposal in writing? I'll summarize my thoughts on this when we get to the end, but my question to the MUD directors would be, why not just come to us and say, keep it for 5 years and then we'll take it over? Why not come to us and say, we'll send you 150 next year, 100 the year after that, 50 the year after that, then we'll keep it. Have a discussion, have a negotiation. It's all the same taxpayers' money. Look at the benefits to the residents. I pay MUD taxes for the last 21, 22 years. I've paid town taxes for the last 22 years. It's all the same money. Of all of this stuff, and Dennis referred to the history, the people get upset when we play left pocket, right pocket politics with the same pool of money, and that's what this is. So I would simply ask our 5 MUD directors, 5 intelligent guys, some of them have been here a very long time and know a lot of stuff, for whom on that board is it not good enough to just come to us with a proposal on how to defease the 150 grand? It's 0.5% of our budget that we just showed here that we're spending this year. Give me an idea. Tell me what you would like to see. Maybe it's good enough for us. Maybe we need to tweak it. Let's be grown-ups and negotiate.
And I would recommend that we negotiate council to directors and stop doing it between lawyers.
I like that idea.
Yeah, so kind of how do we move forward, right, with this whole thing? I think Dean said it a little bit earlier. Until we establish this idea that the town still owns all this stuff, as a basic fact of the way the world is today, it's very difficult to negotiate when you don't agree on that simple point for it, right? So acknowledging, district acknowledging that the town owns this infrastructure, I think, is a starting point for that. Second, acknowledging the fact that the town has existing telecommunication leases that are in easement form on that property, and those are ongoing binding commitments and rights that the town has for it. If we can establish those two things as just the world as it is today, it would very much help us and be able to move forward.
But the reality is, they have shown that they're not willing to acknowledge the first bullet point. Okay? And so if that's the fact,
Yeah.
then what? What does that mean for us?
Yeah, well, I think what it means is we remain where we are.
Yes.
With it,
Yes.
which is we have the ILA in place. It will be
99
in place
years.
for 99 years on it, and we are simply waiting for the opportunity to have further discussions around those topics.
I'm going to be really simplistic, kind of, because I don't. Why is it, if they believe they own it, that they cannot show evidence that they own it?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get it. If they have a deed that says they own it, show me the money. It'd be that easy, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Because that's the number one.
We've asked.
We need ownership proof to negotiate a win-win deal. I mean, how hard is it?
Yeah.
Maybe,
So,
I'm just speechless, kind
being
of.
as a person that is in the pit and paid for that water tower, I just want to kind of make some comments here. We got a couple of us.
Now, wait a minute, what did you just say? I'm
As a
sorry.
person who was in the PID and paid for that water tower, right? Because we paid for it, the PID money did, correct? Okay?
True.
That's true, I paid for it.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
So did Clark,
Uh-huh.
I believe Jill, right? Maybe others. So,
Part of it.
yeah, well, part of it, but still, hold on, I mean, I'm just trying to understand the math here, so hold on, Mayor. So we still got 5 years of payments left on the PID.
Right.
Right, okay. Now, the council just earlier, I believe this year, refinanced it, saving us about $4 million, which, thank you for doing that. It generates $150,000 a year of revenue that goes into the general fund, is used throughout the whole town, correct? Right? So that asset that was paid for by PID goes back to the people of the town, right? They're wanting to take over, I'm just trying to put this in real simple, easy terms, right? They want to take over the water tower, and they want the cell phone revenue that goes with the tower, right? So that means if that happens, I have to cut $150,000 a year of services in this town, or raise taxes $150,000, right? Everybody follow me so far? So over 10 years, that's $1.5 million I got to go find somewhere for an asset that I paid for that somebody else wants, and I still got 5 years of payments left on it. Am I still correct so far?
Yes.
Right? So I'm going to tell you this right now, that, to me, I mean, that's my tower, my revenue, right, goes to this town. I just don't see how, I'm just shocked. I want to thank the council for saving us $4 million, but I'm still paying for the GI Joe, and I don't want to give it away, you know? So that's what, just my quick recap.
So I'll just add, I've made this argument, if they think that it belongs to them and that they've seized it from the town, then they've also taken on the debt.
Right.
So I think we need to figure out, maybe get the bond councils together and figure out if the debt is theirs now.
Yeah. I mean, because like I said, I'm still paying for it, so. Nobody on the mud board's making payments on that water tower.
Yeah, Yeah, well, and so that's one of the issues I wanted to resolve early on, because in reading the TCQ, the administrative code regulations, is I think that there needs to be a clear statement about the assumption of the debt when the property is conveyed.
Well, and to be perfectly fair, this is the root, what Gary's calling out here is the root of the whole issue, and is a almost 20-year-old problem in Trophy Club now, and it's why we took on this effort to try and consolidate and expand the boundaries and simplify things for residents, is because you shouldn't have to view it like that. Those are public assets. They are required to have a functioning municipality. And if the body that sat here 20 years ago would have just had the foresight to tell Murdad to borrow his own money like every other residential developer, we would not have wasted countless time, hours, and money on attorneys, hemming and hawing over really what doesn't matter, because again, like I said, it's all for the benefit of the same population and the same residents. So hat tip to Murdad, you won, and I don't care who wins or loses. I just want the residents to benefit. We're all paying in the same, and that's basically my position on this. The benefits are the boundary expansion, ultimately the consolidation and the transfer of assets. We stated these things together gleefully, all in the room. We want to simplify it for the residents and make it clear. Complicating the situation in this way, we're kind of, we've lost focus on the intent. We've lost focus on the desired outcome. None of it benefits the residents, as I said earlier. Every cent that gets spent on any sort of legal maneuvering, even the time and things, the opportunity cost that we're losing now having to talk about it, both entities, that's viewed very negatively by every voter in town that's paying attention, and everyone should understand that that's a real thing. It has real consequences, and it doesn't actually benefit our residents or our voters in any way. At the end of the day, I'm going to go home. The toilet's going to flush, the faucets are going to turn on, everything's still going to be the same. And really, all we're talking about is kind of having, unfortunately, and I'm not going to even speculate, I don't care why the district decided to kind of take this approach midway through the process and kind of take their eye off the ball over this $150,000 annually. But the truth of the matter is, it matters in our budget today, but we don't have to have it forever. It's not, I am long-term, I am indifferent to the money. Short-term, it's our job to responsibly budget for now and for the next handful of years. That's all it is, just like any other revenue source that we have. And I hope the Mud Board understands that. This is not about trying to get a win or poke somebody or say, yeah, we got a little extra money in the coffers or whatever. Whatever it is, it's all going to go to our voters at the end of the day. It's all going to go to our residents and people that visit the town. That's what we're here to do, is to provide services. Nothing about this entire episode is doing anything to bring forward the common goals and objectives that we have as a community, and I'm really tired of talking about it. So whatever we can do, we need to do it, but we need to be outcome-oriented. The maneuvering that we're seeing here, I don't care why. We just need to make decisive we need to take decisive action to just move forward to get the right outcome. The outcome is the most important thing, which is to put it behind us. Everything between now and the outcome that's already been decided upon by everybody is just wasteful. It's wasteful of time, it's wasteful of taxpayer dollars, and we need to stop it.
I think I've accomplished my goal in that get this out. And I'm not trying to stop discussion tonight, but I have a question, and that is any of this that we're talking about, or any of these issues, does it affect the water supply and the sanitary sewer supply of any of our residents?
No.
No. Okay.
So I have a question.
Yes.
So I was put on the MUD subcommittee, and we obviously haven't met. I'm just curious kind of what the history is of that subcommittee. Isn't the purpose of that to try to sit down with the MUD, to try to work through issues like this?
Yeah, we certainly could send a request to them for the MUD subcommittee to meet with them. When we did that last time, the board, the MUD board said they didn't want to do a subcommittee anymore. They wanted it to be with their entire board. Yeah. So it's sending over our subcommittee to meet with their entire board is what has turned into as of late. Now, I don't know if they would on this topic or not. for that, but, yeah.
If
that's
there,
kind
and
of
if
what
there are
happened.
deal points to discuss about how to move forward, we absolutely should utilize that avenue. What I'm concerned about is like, you can't transfer property in the state of Texas without a warranty deed being executed by the owner, and there's nothing to discuss there, you know? But once we get over that, then 100%, I'm right with you, Sean.
That's number one. That is number one. So maybe that's how we proceed. When we get that, we go the next step. And until that, we stay on our ILA.
Yeah, I go back to kind of those first 2 points.
You know what I mean?
Right, those first 2 points are just simply acknowledging the world as it exists today, right?
That's right.
And then from there, then
Yeah.
I think we can begin to move forward. Until we get that part, it is very difficult to have that conversation over arguing over whether or not they already own it or not.
And I'll just add, they are an entity with the power of eminent domain, which means the MUD can condemn your property. Now, there's a process for that. It's Texas Property Code Chapter 21. And so ordinarily, what you would do is you'd send us the landowner bill of rights. You'd send us an initial offer letter. You'd allow us to look at that, also look at appraisals of the property. None of that has been done here. So the argument I have made to them is that by claiming that you have essentially taken the town's property, you violated Chapter 21 of the Texas Property Code. So if we continue down this argument that somehow they have just taken the property without any kind of deed, I think that as an entity with the power of eminent domain, I think that they've made an error.
And I just, again, add in case, because it's a long conversation, I want them to own the property. Ultimately, my intent
Yes.
is for them to own all of it.
It's consolidation.
It's better for everybody if they own it. We just need to sign the papers in such a way that doesn't put us in breach of contract with active contracts that we have. It's just as simple as that.
You're right, but if they do go through condemnation, then they have to pay
That's right.
for the land, real value, and for the water tower value.
That's right.
So we're
And-
willing,
and-
so what you're saying is if they do go through that process, somebody's going to be paying a few million.
They'll also be paying the leaseholders.
Okay,
So
versus,
they
hey,
also
let's,
have real,
okay,
yeah, it's not just us, it's also them.
gotcha, thank you.
Oh, we have an agenda. Let's go.
Well, that's a heck of a night.
Are you
All right.
fin- are you- are you
I'm done,
wanting to
I'm
close
done,
it?
thank you.
Okay.
Hey, listen, thank you very much to the
Anybody-
council,
anybody else
thank
wanna
you very
comment?
much to the staff that's assisted me in this, and I wish all this stuff would be in open session, not in executive session, on both sides, the MUD and the town. Thank
Did
you.
you have comment, Sean? Anybody else?
No, ma'am.
Steve, anybody?
Nope.
We're done? Good? Okay, well, there is no action on that one, so let's go to, we're going to go into,
Executive session pursuant to the following designated sections of the Texas Government Code, the town council will recess into executive session to discuss the following. Section 551.074, personal matters, to deliberate the employment evaluation and/or duties of public officer or employee, a town secretary.
okay, we'll adjourn to session 9:23. I am going to the restroom. I just.
Does he ever come here?
He has an email, so I'll tell you what he doesn't do. I'll set you up with an email.
Yeah, does he ever come visit you?
He has one.
Yeah, next time he's in town, we'll.
Huh?
It is red.
It's true.
It's ready, Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, can't get rid of it.
It's 9:54. We are reconvening, and now it's 9:54, and we're adjourning.
Good night, Mayor.
Okay, bye-bye.
Good night, everybody.
That came out of.